Chapter 223. Reactions from several parties, Saints formation. I see, but there's no need to feel inferior. He's over 100 years old. Besides, I heard Xuanjie was a rising star in the previous generation. His abilities and knowledge are naturally far superior to ours. After listening to this, Li Qixin also comforted him. Then he paused, a look of worry on his face. I just hope Brother Nangong doesn't run into the other party. If he doesn't ask for the protection of the demon tribe, it will be difficult. Li Muxiu nodded and said, Yes, I can see from my divine eyes that whether it's Brother Nangong or the Ice Phoenix Goddess, they are both as lucky as dragons and have great fortune. They are far from ordinary people. That's good. Li Qixin nodded, and then he felt relieved. Just as the group was leaving, a sudden cry was heard. Look, that one Tiansheng. No, the entire giant race has been wiped out. It seems that they were wiped out by those with double pupils. Wu Jian accidentally opened the bracelet and said in a lost voice. As soon as these words were spoken, Li Qixin and the others' expressions changed, and they quickly checked their bracelets. Really, Li Qixin's pupil shrank. He was a little bit unbelievable. Wan Tiansheng, who was originally ranked one place higher than him, had disappeared at some point, and in his place was Nangong Chen, ranked 8th. Nangong Chen, Xintian Domain, 148,500 points. When they saw this scene, Li Muxiu and others were also shocked, staring at the boss. How is this possible? He and the Ice Phoenix Goddess, just the two of them, wiped out the entire giant race. Jiang Chei's breathing was a little rough, and he said in disbelief. Li Qixin and the others remained silent, frowning as they thought. If he was really killed by someone with double pupils, then, given his strength, why has his points increased so slowly over the past month? No, there must be something fishy about all this. Could it be possible that the wild territory was at war with other realms, and the one with the double pupils took advantage of the opportunity to take advantage of the situation? Lu Wuxin said thoughtfully. After all, the possibility of the immortal treasure is too great. Anything can happen. If one's luck is really against the will of heaven, such a thing is not impossible. I think so too. After all, there are only two of them. Could they really wipe out the entire Mang territory? Even our entire Xintian territory cannot do that. Jiang Che also echoed. Although they admitted that those with double pupils were strong, they obviously did not believe that they were this strong. After all, it was too unbelievable that two people could wipe out the entire wild domain. That's the wild realm. And there's one Tiansheng, whom even the overlord needs to give his all to. On the contrary, the possibility of finding a bargain is even greater. Could it be that Saint Lady Chu and the others encountered the wild territory and happened to join forces with the double pupil master? Then, seeing that the double pupil master didn't have enough points, they gave him up? Wu Jian also expressed his thoughts. After hearing this, everyone nodded. This possibility is actually greater. All right, since Brother Nangong has taken 8th place, that means 4 people from our Xintian domain can make it into the second round. This far exceeds our previous results. We should feel happy and proud instead of speculating here. Li Qixin's face turned cold, and he said seriously. After hearing this, the others also shut up and dared not say anything more. Overlord, now that the immortal hidden world is almost over and the dust is settled, why don't we go and join Saint Chu and the others now? At this moment, Lu Wuxin suggested. After hearing this, Jiang Che and the others nodded, their eyes shining. If that was the case, they could also ask Saint Chu and the others to see what was going on. Li Qixin also nodded slightly. Looking at the gradually setting sun, a feeling of fatigue arose spontaneously, and he said, In that case, let's go back the way we came and look for them. Yes. Soon, the group disappeared from here. Were the giants in the wilderness territory destroyed? At night, Xuanjie checked the bracelet, and a hint of shock appeared on his mysterious face. But soon, he returned to his usual cold attitude. He then looked down and found Nangong Chen, who was ranked 8th. It's actually him. Xuanjie seemed a little surprised after seeing the name. He had a deep impression of the human race in Xintian territory because they ranked first on the first day. Is he planning a comeback now? But this gap of over 100,000 points can't be closed in just a few days. Moreover, in the past few days, their God clan will also make an effort, preparing to go to the core area to hunt down those aliens in the God King realm. By then, their points will reach a terrifying level. Now, the only ones worthy of their attention are the 2 quasi-saints of the human race and the demon race. The others are simply not worth mentioning. Destroying those giants in the wilderness realm shows some ability. Xuanjie said softly, with a hint of patience in his tone, and then shook his head without paying too much attention. For him, those giants in the wild realm can be easily destroyed, which does not mean anything. We have to wait until the second round to see the strength of the opponent. On the other side, in a mountain range, After casually killing a ferocious beast at the peak of the God King level, Wan Qin licked the blood at the corner of his mouth and opened the bracelet as usual. After seeing that his points far exceeded those of others, he looked somewhat satisfied, with a hint of madness. This time, when he came to Xinzong and faced this group of monsters, his cultivation level of the quasi-saint realm could be described as a dimensionality reduction attack, and no one could stop him. What he has to do is not only to get first place in the first round and obtain that supreme opportunity, but also to continue to get first place in the second round. He wants to devour all the opportunities in this immortal treasure. After all, it took him a lot of effort to get here this time. He looked down and saw that even the monsters from the God Clan were only a few 100,000 points away from him, so he felt relieved. It seems that no one can shake my first place this time. As for the Liang Ghost, his speed is not as fast as mine, so there's no need to worry. With this thought in mind, he continued to look down until he saw Nangong Chen, who was ranked 8th. Is it him? Wan Qin was a little surprised. He didn't expect that it would be a person with double pupils. Logically speaking, shouldn't this be a monster from the giant clan? Could it be that the one with double pupils killed them? Wan Qin thought thoughtfully, but didn't care much about it. To him, the man with double pupils and this monster from the giant clan were nothing more than bugs that could be crushed to death with ease. The killing of each other by bugs only added a little fun to life. After watching for a while, Wan Qin also disappeared from the spot and began to clean up the anomalies nearby. He did not forget that he had a competitor, Liang Gui. This is also the reason why Liang Gui is not by his side. Although the two are colleagues, they still have to fight for such interests. It's been so long, and there's still no news about that human. Could it be that those ferocious beasts have eaten him? Hu Yaoyao sat on a huge green rock, shaking her white jade feet, and said with some boredom. She had golden hair scattered around her waist, a beautiful and lively face, 9 white fluffy tails swaying behind her, and her aura was very powerful, at least in the late stage of the God King. Princess, there is nothing we can do. After hearing this, Bai Long bowed slightly and said helplessly. A hint of satisfaction flashed across his eyes. It would be best if he died in the mouths of those monsters, so that he wouldn't have to take action. Okay, if you have any news, please tell me. I have never seen such a handsome human man. Hu Yaoyao's beautiful eyes were a little gloomy, and Nangong Chen's face flashed through her mind, and she added. What others didn't know was that, although she wasn't a princess of the demon realm, she was also a face control freak. Although the fox's appearance after transformation wasn't bad, there was still a huge gap compared to that arrogant human, especially the hazy fairy-like feeling that the other person exuded. Yes, Bai Long agreed, his eyes flashing, and no one knew what he was thinking. Then, Hu Yaoyao looked at the bracelet and was stunned to see that Wan Tiansheng, who was ranked 8th, was replaced. Are these humans so powerful this year? They even killed that ugly giant. Bai Long also nodded. Wan Tiansheng's strength was similar to his. The fact that the other party was able to kill him proved that this human, named Nangong Chen, was also very strong like him. He secretly kept a watchful eye, guessing that this must be the most powerful monster of the human race. But that's it. Bai Long shook his head and said, Princess, although many humans have entered the second round this time, their upper limit is not high. Our focus should be on the Protoss. You're going to deal with those 2 quasi-saints? Hu Yaoyao raised her eyebrows and spoke. After hearing this, Bai Long was speechless for a moment. Princess, you are joking. How could I possibly deal with those 2 quasi-saints? All right, you better stop talking and go help me kill more aliens. Hu Yaoyao felt a little bored and sent him away. Yes, Bai Long's face lit up. He nodded heavily and said respectfully. Soon, he led a group of people away from here. Coming, Nangong Chen seemed to sense something, looked in one direction, and raised the corner of his mouth slightly. Outside the cave, I saw a beautiful icy figure slowly walking towards me. At the same time, others also looked over. When they saw that the person coming was Su Li, they were not too shocked, but just a little curious. Why didn't the other party come with Nangong Chen at the beginning? After Su Li came in, she told him what had just happened. It turned out that after the 2 men killed 2 female giants nearby, they realized something was wrong, so they followed the giants' footprints all the way here. Just as they were outside the cave entrance, Nangong Chen learned about the situation inside and decided to have one person stay there to guard the cave while another went to support them. Xiaoran, the person who came to support them, was Nangong Chen. Chapter 224. Easily broken, Zhuing. After hearing this, several people were shocked. They didn't expect that the original purpose of these 2 was to destroy these giants. This is too crazy. Are they both doing something like this recently? Thinking of this, Wang Teng and others looked at the 2 of them with deep respect in their eyes. If these 2 were not a couple, it would be truly unforgivable. Of course, Su Li was also a little shocked after hearing them say that Nangong Chen killed Wan Tiansheng easily. Although she could do it, She might not be as fast as Nangong Chen. This also showed that there was still a big gap between her and the other party's strength. But even so, she did not lose heart. Instead, she secretly decided to practice hard. Afterwards, Chu Yin and others apologized to the two of them, roughly saying that they were unable to discern when Shun and when Zay's divisive plot while crossing the sea, and failed to speak up for them. Nangong Chen didn't care about this, and neither did Su Li, as if it was a trivial matter. Of course, when Wang Tong and the others saw this reaction, they felt even more guilty, but they didn't say anything more. Are you saying that this is an ancient, immortal ruin, and that's why the giants chose to station here? After listening to their words, Nangong Chen said with interest, looking at the ancient portal. Su Li's beautiful eyes sparkled, and she also looked at him curiously. Chu Yin nodded. He had already told the other party everything. Beside them, Lu Dazui was taking care of the somewhat weak Xiongda. Just now, Xiongda suddenly woke up, which scared them. It is said that he woke up when Chao Li was preparing to cremate him. This made everyone feel a little incredible, but they were all very surprised and excited. Strange, why can't this door be opened? Looking at the corner of the door that was revealed in front of him, Chao Li said with some surprise. After hearing this, Chu Yin and the others went forward to try, but when they found that they couldn't open it, they were also a little confused. There's a saint formation set up here, so naturally you can't open it. Nangong Chen stepped forward, took a look, and spoke slowly. This is a saint's formation, but who among us knows how to use a formation? Yeah, what should I do? Everyone's expression changed, and they spoke anxiously. It's just a saint's formation. It can be broken easily. Nangong Chen smiled faintly, then slowly stepped forward. What? You also know how to form formations? After hearing this, Chu Yin looked a little surprised. Wang Tong and others were also stunned for a moment, as if they had heard something incredible. Only Su Li remained silent. Her beautiful and exquisite face looked at Nangong Chen quietly, with some expectation in her beautiful eyes. He could even break the magic array of a saint. If he were among those array masters, he could be considered as someone who could establish his own school, which represented the mastery of the art of array. In the entire Xintian domain, those who had mastered the art of array could be counted on one hand. And those formation masters, which one of them is not an old man who has lived for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. Thinking of this, she felt a little ashamed. Formations and alchemy are not as easy to learn as other things. Without hundreds of years of accumulation, you may not even be able to get started. And now Nangong Chen is only 18 years old, and he has already mastered the grand formation. At this moment, everyone outside was extremely shocked when they saw this scene. They had not expected that the person with double pupils who had such invincible combat power could actually set up a formation. This instantly caused quite a stir. He actually knows how to set up formations. Oh my god, what on earth can a person with double pupils do? Hearing his tone, he seems absolutely confident. He can easily break a saint-level formation. He must have mastered the formation technique to a high level, at the very least. Could it be that he secretly learned some formation techniques without telling us? Strange. Why have we never heard of it before? He is a monster among monsters. It doesn't seem difficult for him to master these formations easily. For a while, everyone was talking about it, and they were all optimistic about people with double pupils. On the other side, in a private room of a restaurant, there was also a group of boys and girls who were watching the scene. After hearing what everyone said, they couldn't help laughing with a hint of pride in their eyes. This is hilarious. I admit that those with double pupils are very powerful, but how can anyone believe that a saint's formation can be easily broken? Yeah, you dare to say such big words. Aren't you afraid of biting your tongue? Even our holy Lord wouldn't dare to say that he can break the saint's formation. Alas, they are just deceiving themselves. In my opinion, this person with double pupils has only learned a little bit at best. He doesn't understand anything, so he dares to speak nonsense here. They had a Tianjin token hanging around their waists, were all dressed neatly, and had a sense of arrogance in their bones. It was obvious that they were disciples of the Tianjin Holy Land. As for where their arrogance comes from, it can be attributed to the fact that there are very few formation masters and the talent required is extremely high. Whenever one appears, he is a rare existence. Not to mention, the sect they belong to is the most coveted place among formation masters, the Holy Land of Heavenly Formations. Sister, now that the mission is complete, should we return to the sect, or should we stay here? A short male disciple said this, looking at the dignified and elegant woman in the lead. The woman was wearing a black and gold phoenix tail skirt. She had a dignified demeanor and a stunning appearance. Her skin was as crystal clear as glass and had a natural charm. Others also turned their gazes, and their eyes looking at the woman were filled with passion and admiration. Obviously, This woman's identity in the Holy Land is definitely not simple. If there were anyone here at this moment, they would definitely recognize that the young woman in front of them was the world-famous genius formation master, who was born with a natural heart for formations. She started learning at the age of 8, achieved minor success at the age of 15, and even reached the great perfection of formations at the age of 25, becoming a demon that shocked the entire world. Zhu Ying. Zhu Ying slowly opened her eyes and looked at the scene in the void. A cold expression appeared on her calm face. Can he easily break a saint's formation? What a joke. Wait a moment. I want to see if this person's skills are as tough as his words. She herself has been learning formations since she was 3 years old and has a natural talent for formations. Now, she is only one step away from perfecting the formation intent. In another 10 years or so, she will definitely be able to break through to the perfect formation intent. However, even with this, she does not dare to say that she can easily break the formation of a saint. She had also tried to break the saint's formation, the shortest time taking only about 10 days, which was still quite fast. And yet, this layman with double pupils, who knew nothing about anything, actually dared to say that he could break it with ease. This made Zhu Ying frown, and her favorable impression of him dropped a lot. When she saw him killing Mang Yu, she thought he was an upright person, but she didn't expect him to be such a frivolous person. When these words were spoken, the others also smiled after hearing them. They knew that the eldest sister would never give up. She had a passion and seriousness for formations that was different from ordinary people. Senior sister, there's no need to be angry. After all, this person with double pupils probably doesn't understand much about formations, which is why he said such things. We don't need to bother with an outsider. At this time, a female disciple whispered comfortingly. Everyone nodded. In their opinion, the person with double pupils was no more than 20 years old, or even younger than them. If he could easily break the saint's formation, it would mean that the other party's formation intent was at least above perfection. But how could it be possible to reach perfection? Zhu Ying, who was incredibly talented, was only at the peak of perfection. Moreover, the opponent's martial arts talent is so high. Would he really spend time learning this formation? Obviously, it is impossible. After hearing their comfort, Zhu Ying's expression eased a lot, but her beautiful eyes were still a little angry. How dare an outsider make such big claims? If he could easily break it, wouldn't it prove that he had learned nothing about the formations he had learned over the years? In the void, those powerful beings were also a little surprised and then shook their heads. Obviously, they did not take what Nangong Chen said seriously. Although they had never learned the formation, they all knew that the formation was the way of alchemy, which was not something that ordinary people could learn. It required a long period of accumulation and strong talent. After all, there's so many formation masters around us, but only a few of them are truly proficient in it. The data is there. Now it seems that their younger generation has no chance of obtaining this ancient immortal relic. Thinking of this, a hint of regret appeared in their eyes. You know, opportunities with the word immortal in them are all great opportunities. On the other side, in the Tianyuan Divine Dynasty, everyone was staring at each other in confusion. When did the prince learn the formation? How come I didn't know about it? Ha, the prince really knows I joke. In order to ease the awkward atmosphere, a minister also spoke up. Yes, the prince must have said this on purpose to give the other geniuses confidence. Does he actually have other solutions? Some people nodded, their faces shining, and guessed. Nangong Chen sat on the dragon throne, tapping the chair with his fingers, frowning slightly, with a hint of confusion in his eyes. When did his son learn the formation? How come he never knew about it? Since childhood, he has either been tinkering with strange things, visiting brothels, or flirting with royal princesses. He doesn't even have time to practice, so how can he have time to learn formations? Could it be that my son is a master of time management? Thinking of this, even Nangong Chen himself couldn't hold it anymore. He shook his head and continued to look at the picture in the void. Chapter 225, Red Heart Dragon Formation, Breaking the Formation. Looking at the rusty old door in front of him, Nangong Chen did not choose to use brute force to open that corner, but reached out to touch it. The next moment, a surge of Tao rhyme burst out from Nangong Chen. His eyes were closed tightly, as if he had entered another state. At the same time, the formation on the portal was also activated, and a beam of light shot straight into the sky, illuminating the sky. After sensing this breath, the expressions of everyone present changed. Above the 9 heavens, endless flames transformed into a crimson barrier, covering the entire cave. Roar! The aura of those man-eating flames continued to rise, as if a terrifying existence had awakened. After a few breaths, they condensed into shape and transformed into fire dragons with overwhelming momentum. This intensity was simply too scorching, and the temperature was still rising. Even Su Li, who had the Ice Phoenix divine body, was sweating profusely. Those fire dragons were huge, with flames all over their bodies. Their huge dragon eyes exuded endless murderous intent, and they looked at them as if they were some invaders. Anyone who dares to look at the ancient immortal ruins will die. A cold and ruthless voice sounded, echoing throughout the field. After these words were spoken, everyone's faces turned pale. I don't know if it was due to excessive water loss or some other reason. At this moment, no matter how much they didn't understand, they understood that they had activated this formation. This is the Saint's killing formation, the Red Heart Transformation Dragon Formation. It's constructed with a dragon's blood heart as the center and red dragon fire as the foundation. When activated, its power is incredibly astonishing. It's said that it can even kill a saint. Shimeng's pupils suddenly shrank as if she had thought of something. When the others heard this, they were stunned. Some couldn't believe it. This formation could even kill a saint. It's bad, I shouldn't have come here. Chu Yin murmured, her pretty face extremely pale. Wang Tung and his companions looked ashen, and a feeling of despair surged in their hearts. Didn't they expect that they would still die in the end? They were unwilling to accept this. Even Xiongda, who had just woken up, was confused. How could he die again after dying once? Is there any solution? Lu Dazhu asked hurriedly. Shimeng shook her head, her face pale, and said slowly, "We only have one stick of incense to crack it. If we can crack it within this time, we will be safe. If we can't crack it, we will all die here. As for one stick of incense, it's completely impossible. Even if the Holy Lord of the Heavenly Array Holy Land came here in person, there's no way it could be resolved within the time it takes. It would take at least a day. Unless there's a being that has reached a level above the perfect formation, there is some hope." After he finished speaking, everyone's expressions became even worse. The Tianjin Holy Land is the most famous holy land of formations. Even their Holy Lord needs a whole day to come here in person. Doesn't that mean they can just wait to die? After all, where can we find a perfect formation? They looked at Nangong Chen and placed their last bit of hope on him. At this moment, when everyone in the outside world saw this scene, their pupils shrank and they were a little bit unbelievable. Oh my God, is this a saint-level formation? It's almost like a natural disaster. Can someone with double pupils break the formation? This might seem capable of destroying everything in the world. If there's no way to break the formation, they'll be in danger today. May they be safe and sound. May God bless them. At this moment, people in the streets and alleys had mixed expressions. Some were shocked by the saint's magic circle, while others prayed sincerely for them. After seeing this, the powerful people in the void frowned and looked very unhappy. If we were to enter this saint's killing formation, we would all be reduced to ashes. Damn it, how could their luck be so bad? They're actually facing a saint-level killing formation. If it were any other formation, there would still be some room for improvement. Could it be that God is so unfair? At this moment, the people from Chilan Gate, Howran Pavilion, Tianbao Pavilion, Astronomical Holy Land all looked pale, and a feeling of despair surged up in them. In the private room of Zuatian Pavilion. Oh no, it's actually a killing formation, and it's the legendary Red Heart Dragon Formation. Zhu Ying's face changed, and she spoke in a stammering voice. Even though she couldn't stand Nangong Chen's attitude, she still didn't want them to die. After all, these were the geniuses of Xiantian Domain. What should we do? Even if Master comes in person, it will take at least a day to complete the Red Heart Dragon Formation. Unless there's a Formation Master who has reached consummation or above among them, we will all die today. Zhu Ying muttered to herself, her eyes filled with worry. When the other disciples saw this, there was a hint of coldness in their eyes, and they seemed very happy. It's all because the Chu family didn't give us a spot this time. If Senior Sister had gone there, she would have definitely been able to see the formation on the portal. Yes, that person with double pupils is still talking nonsense. Now we have to see how they will deal with it. What a pity for the others. If it weren't for the one with double pupils activating the formation, they might have had a chance to survive. At this moment, they all felt that Nangong Chen and the others were beyond saving. After all, this was a saint-level killing formation. No joke, and it was also a legendary killing formation, which made it even more difficult to break. Even a master of formations who studies ancient books would probably need to think for a whole day and a night before coming up with an idea. What's more, they only have one stick of incense to last. If that time passes, they will all die there. They sneered and wanted to see how Nangong Chen would easily break the formation. At the same time, the temperature of the air in the cave has been rising continuously, reaching more than 100 degrees Celsius. Although, as practitioners, they have extraordinary physical strength, but they still find it difficult to withstand the rapidly rising temperature. And here, I'm afraid the only one who can maintain normal temperature is Su Li. Su Li saw a streak of sweat on Nangong Chen's forehead, and with her bare hands raised, an ice-blue ball of light enveloped him. In an instant, the temperature around Nangong Chen dropped significantly, and there was even a cold wind blowing, and the sweat on his forehead was instantly blown away. The sweat from the others fell like raindrops, and their clothes were soaked, especially Shiming and Chu Yin, whose bodies vaguely outlined sexy curves, which were extremely attractive. Of course, everyone else was scorching hot, and no one had the time to pay attention. Only Suli saw this, frowning slightly, glanced at them, then at Nangong Chen, her beautiful eyes flashing with an inexplicable meaning, and then she shot out 6 ice cones. The next moment, everyone felt a comfortable chill and were a little stunned. After realizing that it was Su Li who did it, they also looked at him with gratitude. Chu Yin and Shimeng were also very grateful, but they felt a little confused as to why their clothes dried so quickly. But they didn't think much about it. Break! Only a cold voice was heard. The fire dragon hanging high above the sky had a look of anthropomorphic shock in its eyes. The next moment, its body turned into a rain of stars and disappeared before everyone's sight. At the same time, the surging passion also dissipated, and the crimson barrier was removed in an instant. Everyone suddenly felt relieved, and the terrifying murderous intent suddenly disappeared. They looked into the void and were shocked when they saw this scene. Then, as if they thought of something, they suddenly looked at Nangong Chen. There was a rare hint of fatigue on that handsome face that looked like an immortal, but it was well hidden and his expression remained calm. Hiss! Did he really break the formation? You know, it wasn't even as long as an incense stick. Only 3 breaths had passed. In 3 breaths, the time it takes to eat a mouthful of food, he broke. This is outrageous. Didn't they say that even if the Holy Lord of the Heavenly Array Holy Land came, it would take a whole day? So what is this? Is it a level above the perfection of formation intent? They were horrified and couldn't even imagine. Wang Teng and the others now looked at Nangong Chen with an inexplicable look in their eyes, as if they were looking at a land immortal. There was no way out. They were completely convinced. The other party saved 2 of their lives. Such a favor could not be forgotten. Shimeng was a little surprised, and then looked at Nangong Chen with great delight, her beautiful eyes gleaming with excitement. She had been saved by him once again. However, after seeing Su Li beside Nangong Chen, her beautiful eyes dimmed again. Chu Yin lowered her head, feeling extremely complicated. She didn't expect that Nangong Chen really knew how to set up formations. If it weren't for him, she would have died several times already. For a moment, a ripple appeared in her heart, which continued to spread. But she also thought of what her father had warned her before. She was a little stunned and suddenly felt that life was a little tiring. Nangong Chen took a deep breath and adjusted himself back to his normal state. He didn't expect that although he had the Tao-level formation intention, he didn't have the soul strength to support it. This also led to the fact that after he used all his strength to break the formation, his soul almost couldn't hold on. This is different from setting up a formation. Breaking a formation is more like solving a math problem. Although you can understand the questions, your condition and energy cannot keep up. If you force yourself to solve them, you will only become overly tired. Nangong Chen is in such a state now. Su Li hurried forward to support him and whispered, "Are you okay?" Looking at Nangong Chen, who seemed to be in a strange state, a trace of heartache flashed in his ice-blue eyes. Even though he pretended very well, he could not escape Su Li's sight. You know, she was observing him the whole time. Nangong Chen only smelled a faint fragrance, and then fell on a soft body. He could even feel that Su Li seemed to have grown a lot. He was very familiar with this smell. Who else could it be except Su Li? Nangong Chen's lips curled up, and his heart couldn't help but feel warm. He suddenly thought of himself as an orphan in his previous life, helpless and alone. Apart from typing away from home, some of the women with outstanding looks, and whom he interacts with on a regular basis, are just bad women who are after his body. I didn't expect that after traveling to this world, I would not only have the family love that I had been missing since childhood, but also love, friendship, and so on. All of this made him feel dazed and like he was dreaming. However, even so, he had no intention of stopping. He still had a lot of things to do. For example, go to the 9 heavens to find his mother and increase his strength to the point where no one can defeat him. He knew very well that this world was a cruel one. There were stronger ones above the strong, and the weak had no human rights in front of strong. He had already realized this since he had traveled through time for 18 years. Therefore, he must become the strongest, strong enough to protect everything and to wipe out everything. Chapter 226. The world is shocked and enters the gate. This, am I seeing this right? This is a saint-level formation, and it was actually broken by someone with double pupils. We underestimated the person with double pupils. We didn't expect that he could actually use a formation. Monster, an absolute monster. I didn't expect that his cultivation talent is so incredible. Not only that he has such high attainments and formations. Everyone stared at the boss and said something speechless. Even if they didn't know much about formations, they could clearly see that Nangong Chen's talent for formations must be extraordinary, since he could easily break this saint-level killing formation. Those who had previously questioned Nangong Chen had now vanished into thin air. Their pupils shrank slightly, having never expected that such a slap in the face would come so suddenly. In the void, those powerful people looked at this with disbelief, looking at the man in white in the picture as if he were looking at a monster. Fuck, a powerful person who was good at formation couldn't help but curse. His name is Lu Hong, and he is an elder of the Tianjin Holy Land. His formation skills have reached the level of perfection. No one knows better than him what this scene means. This is a fucking saint-level killing formation. Even if you ask the Holy Lord to come in person, it will take at least a day. However, this is still considered very fast. Unexpectedly, the person with double pupils broke it in just a few breaths. What does this mean? This child can break the formation so quickly, and the level of his formation intention is likely to be above perfection, or even the level of enlightenment. You know, Huajin and Rodeo are realms in the legend, which is simply impossible to achieve. For thousands of years, no one in Xintian realm has stepped into this realm. Even their Holy Lord had only achieved perfection in the formation, and it took the Holy Lord nearly 5,000 years, or even longer, to reach perfection. Yet, this person with double pupils, how old is he? Yet his formation intention surpasses all the sages. No, this matter is extremely important. We must quickly return to the Holy Land and tell the Holy Lord. This boy's talent in formation is truly too extraordinary. Even Zhu Ying, who is born with a formation heart, is somewhat far behind. Lu Hong murmured, with endless shock in his eyes. Soon, he left here. After seeing this, the other great masters looked at each other in bewilderment, their thoughts varying. However, without exception, they all felt that the display of this formation talent by the one with the double pupils had already brought them great shock. The elders from Qilin Gate, Howren Pavilion, Tianbao Pavilion, and others who came here all looked at Nangong Chen with gratitude and excitement on their faces. The evildoer in their power was once again saved by the one with double pupils. If the one with double pupils does not die, he will definitely reach an unprecedented height in the future. A powerful person in Qilin Gate spoke up and sighed. At this moment, no one present objected. They simply couldn't find anything to refute. Not only was his cultivation talent extremely high, but he also possessed such a talent for formations. Even if he had taken either of them individually, it would have been enough to become a hot commodity in the Xintian territory, being scrambled for by countless forces. What's more, these two things were in the same person. This boy is so terrifying. Li Songhai said with some sigh. He never expected that the person with double pupils would bring such shock to the world again. Even though I've seen countless geniuses, I have never seen a monster like this. This formation intent that surpasses perfection is truly too astonishing. In all this time, no formation master has ever possessed such a skill. If this boy concentrates on studying formations, maybe he will be able to reach the saint level soon in the future. Bai Wu Dao, who was standing aside, was also a little surprised that a person with double pupils could even dabble in formation. Then Bai Wu Dao showed a hint of doubt in his eyes. He was a little confused. How could Nangong Chen cultivate the formation to such a level in just over 10 years? Didn't he practice? It seems that some monsters really cannot be treated with common sense. Bai Wu Dao nodded thoughtfully. The most shocking thing was the group of Tianjin disciples who were previously in Zuaishan Pavilion. When they saw that the red heart dragon transformation formation was broken, their faces were stunned and their eyes were full of disbelief. How is this possible? It must be fake. It must be fake. In just a few breaths, this saint's killing formation was broken. Even Huazhan wouldn't be this outrageous. The formation must be broken. Something unexpected happened. This group of boys and girls seemed unwilling to admit it and insisted that it must have been some other accident. The pride in their hearts does not allow them to lose face and admit that they are inferior to others. They have been learning the formation since they were young. So how could they not know whether there is any problem with the formation or whether there is any accident? They know it clearly in their hearts, but they're just deceiving themselves. Zhu Ying's pupils also suddenly shrank, her beautiful eyes filled with shock. In her mind, the scene of breaking the formation just now kept replaying. There's something wrong with this method. It's the legendary ditch sky. What is Gaotian? It is the most difficult method of breaking the formation in the formation lineage. Since ancient times, it has only existed in vague legends. People don't know how to learn it or how to find it. All I know is that, according to the description in ancient books, Go Tian can break the formation from a distance and use the power of thoughts, and the required formation intent must at least be at the level of Huajin. This is also the technique that Zhu Ying has always dreamed of learning. She has been searching for it for many years, but has not found any clues. But today, she actually saw this legendary technique. After coming to her senses, she calmed down and frowned when she heard what the other disciples said. Accident? You've been studying for so long, and you only discovered an accident? I think you need to enter the outer sect and learn the basics of formations again. Zhu Ying said coldly, her tone very dissatisfied. When the others heard what Zhu Ying said, their expressions changed, as if they had thought of something horrible, and they immediately admitted their mistakes. No accident, absolutely no accident. We were dazzled and a little confused just now. I hope senior sister won't be angry. If we let them fight back to the outer gate, it would be more painful than killing them. Zhu Ying's expression finally softened, and then, with a touch of shame, she slowly said, I've always thought I was incredibly gifted in formations, unrivaled in the world. I never imagined, seeing the formations of the one with double pupils today, that I've finally realized there are always people better than you, and there are always things better than you. When these words were spoken, everyone was shocked. They didn't expect that the senior sister, who had always been strong and arrogant, would actually admit her mistake in person. In just a few breaths, they were able to break the saint's formation. Doesn't that mean that the attainments of the formation of those with double pupils are legendary? At this moment, someone realized it belatedly and asked in disbelief. Zhu Ying nodded slightly without saying a word. This attitude said it all. When the other disciples saw this, their faces turned pale, as if they had witnessed a miracle. Only when you truly learn the art of formation and get started will you realize how shocking this thing is. It is like a mayfly looking up at the sky. They are mayflies, while those with double pupils are beings above the 9 heavens. What's more, the other person is only in his teens. No one here is older than him. At this moment, they were all silent. Everything that happened today was bound to leave an unforgettable impression in their hearts. After Nangong Chen had almost recovered, he gave Suli a grateful look, said nothing, and slowly got up from the arms of that soft body. Suli felt the warmth fading away, and she felt a little nostalgic for a moment. But when she saw Nangong Chen's eyes, a smile bloomed on her beautiful face. The two were speechless, but a glance could tell everything. After seeing this, Wang Teng and others who had been watching here also coughed lightly, quickly stood up, and turned their gaze to Nangong Chen, as if they were at his disposal. When Shimeng saw the two of them being so intimate, a hint of sadness flashed across her beautiful eyes, but she slowly stood up, her beautiful purple hair falling like a waterfall. Chu Yan also had a complicated expression, with 1,000 thoughts in her mind. She sighed softly, then stood up and looked at Nangong Chen as well. Since this is an ancient immortal ruin, based on my experience, the danger inside is certainly no less than what we just experienced. If you want to go in, I cannot guarantee your safety. Please make your own judgment. Nangong Chen looked at them and spoke slowly. He has done his utmost to be kind and righteous. If the other party goes in and something happens, he cannot guarantee that they will survive. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of Wang Teng and the others changed, as if they had thought of something horrible. They did not say anything, but were weighing the matter in their minds. Let's not go in. We'll just wait for you outside. Wang Teng spoke, and his meaning also represented the meaning of others. Chu Yan hesitated for a moment before saying, I want to go in. When these words were spoken, the others looked a little surprised. They didn't expect Chu Yan to choose to go in with them. You know, the gap between them is as huge as heaven and earth. Even so, I still want to go there. Is there really something in there that is more important than life? Seeing everyone's gazes, Chu Yan's face flashed with panic, and she explained, I have a feeling that there is something inside these ruins calling me, pulling me in. Then, she looked at Nangong Chen and said calmly, if you encounter any danger after entering, don't worry about me. Just take care of yourselves. I will also bear the consequences of going in. After hearing this, Nangong Chen's eyes were a little surprised, but he still nodded. Okay, this relic is actually calling Chu Yan in. Does that mean it has some connection with her? If I bring her in, maybe I'll get some unexpected rewards. Chapter 227 Zhuangxiamen, Chu Wanli's waiting. Soon, the three disappeared from everyone's sight. However, before leaving, Nangong Chen instructed that if the time was almost up and they had not come out yet, they should let these people go early and there was no need to wait for them. He also emphasized that if they encountered Bao Wang and the others, they should remember to remind them to stay away from Xinzong on the last day. And the same goes for others, as if something big was about to happen. As the light in front of him gradually dissipated, Nangong Chen gradually saw the scene clearly. A magnificent, ancient, low palace, covered with dust and sand, with poisonous insects occasionally crawling in the corners. Outside the palace gate, there are 2 stone statues of ancient lions. The ancient lions have wings on their backs, and they look extremely domineering. Just looking at them from a distance makes people feel afraid. This is actually a ferocious beast that has never appeared in the Xintian territory. Chu Yin murmured. The ancient lion's eyes made her feel a little uneasy. Nangong Chen took a quick look and was not surprised. On the contrary, it would be strange if it had happened before. After all, this is the ancient immortal ruins. The place where ancient immortals lived and the ferocious beast bred. There are no ordinary ones. The three of them looked around and did not stay for long before entering the palace. As soon as you enter the palace, you will be filled with a mysterious atmosphere. At the same time, they had an illusion that they were being watched. This palace was extremely huge, and the stone walls were carved with runes they had never seen before. The building seemed to be made of fairy crystals, and after being baptized by the long years, countless cracks appeared on it. However, this place, called the Ancient Immortal Ruins, does not even have the figure of an immortal, and there are no so-called opportunities or magic weapons in the surrounding buildings. And in the center of the palace, there was an ancient portal. It was dilapidated and bloodstained. Around the portal, there were densely carved runes. Su Li and Chu Yin were observing their surroundings, curiosity showing in their beautiful eyes. It turns out that this place is not as dangerous as they imagined. On the other side, Nangong Chen was a little lost in thought, staring at the runes on the stone wall, his pupils burning brightly, as if some magical power was attracting him. Faintly, he could actually see the rune jumping, as if it was turning into a painting of blood and war. No, there's something strange. Nangong Chen's face changed, and he realized something was wrong. This painting was actually devouring his soul, as if it was trying to pull his soul into another space. He hurriedly tried to look away, but it was too late, and a feeling of dizziness instantly came over him. The next moment, with a sound, Nangong Chen fainted on the spot. Nangong Chen, Su Li's pupils suddenly shrank, her face changed, and she flashed in front of him in an instant. Seeing this, Chu Yin, who was not far away, hurried over. Monsters! This place is full of monsters. Outside the Stargate is a trap. It's too late, too late. They've already infiltrated. It won't be long before our entire 9 heavens and 10 realms fall. Let's fight. Fight them. I, Zhuangxianzi, am willing to lead the charge into the land of the end. Zhuangxiaman, follow me to fight the enemy. Nangong Chen was in a daze, and he seemed to hear voices lingering in his ears. The voice was extremely tragic, as if carrying a determination to die. In a trance, Nangong Chen's eyes became clearer, and when he saw the scene in front of him, his eyes widened involuntarily. Isn't this the palace we were in just now? Inside the palace before him, hundreds of monks gathered. Their faces were tense as they stared at the central gate, seemingly discussing something. We can't wait any longer. If we don't get support from them, they'll attack us very soon. By then, the entire 10 realms will be devastated. Yes, Sectmaster, give the order. If we keep dragging on like this, it will be too late. The aura of those monks was as deep as the abyss, and runes were intertwined around their bodies. When their eyes opened and closed, there was actually a flash of fairy light. They looked at the white-robed old man who was in the lead and spoke out one after another. The old man in white robe was even more terrifying. With a wave of his hand, he could cause strange phenomena in heaven and earth. His whole body exuded an extremely powerful aura. This was the second time in Nangong Chen's life that he had seen such a person. The first time was when it was the masked woman with a ghost face. Nangong Chen's eyes flashed as he watched quietly. He seemed to be in a turbulence of time and space. No one around him could see him, but he could see everyone. He listened to what they said and thought about it. The entire 10 realms will be devastated? Why would they say that? Isn't this place an immortal treasure? Who are these people? Who are they talking about, the other side? For a moment, he looked a little confused, with too many doubts in his mind. Why was I brought here by the runes on the stone wall? Did I trigger some taboo? The old man in white robes, who was at the head of the group, glanced at everyone. His eyes were filled with complicated emotions, including reminiscence, unwillingness, regret, anger, and hatred. He didn't say anything, but just sighed deeply, as if lamenting the injustice of the world. I didn't expect this day would come so soon. His lips moved, and after a pause, he burst into anger. His eyes were red as he stared straight at the sky. The power of this gaze was so overwhelming that it seemed as if it could penetrate the heavens. At this moment, countless creatures in the entire Xinzong were trembling under this anger. Faintly, several extremely powerful and ferocious beasts were also trembling. Nangong Chen looked into the distance. As far as his eyes could see, the palace seemed transparent. He could see the entire immortal treasure. At that time, The bright white moonlight in Xianzong was extremely pure, as if it could cleanse everything in the world. It was completely different from the blood moon he saw in the mountains. The creatures in the mountains also had their eyes as usual, without that hint of blood red. Their aura was extremely peaceful, and they looked harmless. Nangong Chen's pupils shrank slightly. He couldn't believe that this was the immortal treasure from before. Then what is the reason why the current Xianzong has become like that? That damn Tianyuan, he caused such a mess and made us Zhuangxiamen clean up his mess. The old man in white robe pointed at the sky and cursed angrily. His voice was like a loud bell, carrying a sense of Taoism, echoing throughout the entire Xianzong. Well, I want to see who will guard this place after we die. No one should come. It would be best if no one comes. Let's die together. The old man seemed unsatisfied and cursed again. However, those powerful disciples of Xianxian sect seemed to have gotten used to it long ago and were a little amused and helpless. They looked towards the immortal treasure behind them, with a hint of nostalgia and reluctance in their eyes, as if they were saying their final goodbye. Finally, the old man looked at these disciples, saw the determination on their faces, smiled, and then said, "Today 3,000 disciples of my Xianxian sect have gathered here. My Xianxian sect has a long history, with inheritance from the 9 heavens to the 10 realms. Even in the 3,000 Tao states, we are the undisputed #1 sect. Since they don't dare to be the first to deal with these monsters, let us do it. Disciples of Xianxian sect, tell me, are you afraid of these monsters? Don't be afraid." 3,000 disciples of Xianxian sect spoke in unison, their eyes burning with determination and not fearing death. Very good, this is a disciple of our Xianxian sect. This is courage. In this case, we, the #1 sect in the 3,000 Tao states, will lead the way for those grandsons and scout the way for them. The old man laughed heartily, then looked at a disciple in the crowd and said, "Chu Wanli, you are the youngest here. Come and open the magic circle for us, then stand guard here and wait for us to come back." The somewhat immature male disciple came out, his eyes full of respect for the old man. He nodded heavily, yes. Nangong Chen looked at this scene and suddenly realized something. It turns out that their sect was ranked first in the 9 heavens at that time. No wonder there were so many evil geniuses among them. But why does Chu Wanli's appearance seem vaguely familiar? Nangong Chen concentrated and looked at the young disciple for a while, but after looking for a long time, he still couldn't remember who it was, so he gave up. Time flies. After Chu Wanli activated the formation of this portal, the extremely dark portal burst into brilliant light and then opened wide. Nangong Chen saw that within the portal there was a black vortex. Today I, Fairy Xian, will lead you to a hearty fight with those monsters. Fairy Xian was the first to step into the vortex, and the disciples behind him followed closely. Soon, Chu Wanli was the only one left here. He looked at his former senior brothers and sisters who were leaving one after another, and felt inexplicably lonely at this moment. He endured it, and, as a monk, he soon meditated on the spot. Nangong Chen watched this scene quietly with complicated eyes. Soon, the years passed, and in the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. Over the years, Chu Wanli has either been practicing or using a special kind of clay to mold little figures, all of which look like his familiar senior brothers and sisters, as well as his master. Over the past 10 years, he has made clay figures of his senior brothers and sisters from the Xianxian sect and stored them in the coolest place in the palace. There are a total of 3,000 of them. Today, Chu Wanli was meditating as usual. Just as he was about to practice, he seemed to sense something and looked at the dark portal with some excitement. Master and the others are coming back. He suppressed his excitement and murmured, holding the clay figurine of his master in his hand, wanting to give his master a surprise later. Finally, a corner of the door opened, and Chu Wanli quickly stepped forward with eyes full of anticipation, even his body trembling uncontrollably. He wanted to act more mature and act like a senior brother or sister, but he couldn't hide his inner excitement and anticipation. Countless questions ran through his mind. He wanted to ask what those monsters on the other side of the portal were. Was it fun outside the portal? Are they tired after these past 10 years? Next time they go, can they take him with them? He also wants to fight the enemy together with his brothers and sisters. However, the door opened wide, and a stream of blood rushed out instantly, filling the sky. When Chu Wanli saw this scene, he couldn't help but stand there in a daze, and the clay figure he was holding tightly in his hand fell. Chapter 228, here we come again, Stargate. Cough! The black lacquered door opened, and a weak cough was heard. The next moment, a bloody hand stretched out, and an old man with disheveled hair and a dirty face staggered out. He was in extremely poor condition. His face was pale, his eyes were bloodshot, giving people a sense of deadness, and he was completely different from the high spirits he had before setting out. It is hard to imagine that this is actually the true immortal of the 3,000 Tao states, Xian Xianzi. Master, Chu Wanli's face changed, and he hurried forward to help him up. When Xian Xianzi heard the call, his cloudy eyes became much clearer. Looking at everything in front of him, his breathing became a little rapid. We're here. We're here. As soon as he finished speaking, it seemed as if a series of fiery eyes burst out from behind him and shot straight into the sky. Not long after, many disciples came into the dark portal one after another. Compared with the 3,000 disciples who left, there were only more than 1,000 people left now. These more than 1,000 people were extremely weak, with serious injuries on their bodies, including broken hands and feet. Some of them even had half of their bodies missing and were covered in blood. These people entered the palace at this moment and rested there, feeling exhausted. Chu Wanli, standing by, had a look of fear in his eyes. He pursed his lips and swallowed the questions he wanted to ask. He silently took care of them, bandaged their wounds, and brewed pills. Nangong Chen was in the void. Watching this scene, his pupils slightly shrank. He couldn't imagine what kind of powerful enemy they encountered outside that portal. Even the number one sect in Sanshin Daozhou had to return with heavy injuries, and nearly half of its people were missing. Such a tragic scene was extremely moving. He looked at the dark portal with complicated eyes. Even if he was slow at this moment, he could guess that this group of people were guarding the immortal treasure and the entire 9 heavens and 10 realms. Even they cannot deal with the creatures behind the portal. If they enter here, it will be a catastrophe for the 10 realms. What made him curious was what exactly was the monster they were talking about. Soon, time flies and a year passes in a flash. Yang Fong, a disciple of Xianxian's sect, died in battle in an unknown place at the age of 326. Chu Wanli was alone in the woods in the backyard. After carving the last tombstone, he sighed and knelt down with a sincere look in his eyes. After finishing, he stood up, his resolute face full of maturity, completely different from the immaturity of a year ago. One can imagine how much impact this year has had on him. Master and the others are leaving again today. No, I have to go see them off, Chu Wanli murmured, as if he had thought of something, and ran towards the palace. When he arrived at the palace, it was already empty. The dark portal in the center had a bright light, proving that the other party had just left. When Chu Wanli saw this, the corners of his mouth were a little bitter and his eyes were complicated. No one knew what he was thinking. You won't even let me see you off? Over the past year, both the master and the senior brothers and sisters have avoided talking about the monsters behind the portal, but the only thing that can be confirmed is that all of those monsters are ridiculously powerful. He had seen countless times in the dead of night, the despair flickering in the eyes of his senior brothers and sisters. That paleness and powerlessness was shocking. It was hard to imagine what kind of existence they faced outside the gate. As for my master, he avoided talking about this matter. Even though his cultivation level has reached the point where he can kill me and has surpassed many of my senior brothers and sisters, he still won't allow himself to step into that door. He was curious, puzzled, and angry, but when he saw his master's lonely yet determined eyes, he let go of everything. During these 11 years, they hadn't received any support, which puzzled him. Why should we be the only ones to bear the brunt of the monsters outside the portal? The master seemed to have accepted his fate and only went out once. After returning, he secluded himself like a candle in the wind, and his eyes became increasingly cloudy and lifeless. In the void, Nangong Chen was like a ghost or a passerby, watching all this happen. Soon, another 5 years passed. During these 5 years, Chu Wanli's aura has become increasingly stronger. Compared to 5 years ago, he has been completely transformed. He no longer had the handsome look of the past, and now looked resolute and strong. If this happened in the outside world, anyone would be in awe of him. And today, with the movement outside the gate, Chu Wanli's excitement could not help but surge up again. This time, they only had 300 people left. Chu Wanli looked at his senior brothers and sisters in the palace who were suffering from increasingly serious injuries, his eyes filled with fear. He clenched his fists, unable to believe how powerful these monsters from the outside world were. They had killed only 10% of their Xianxian sect's 3,000 disciples. Spring passed, and autumn came. And for the past 10 years, Chu Wanli had been taking care of his senior brothers and sisters, but some of them were too seriously ill to be saved and died in the palace. Now, 10 years later, he only has more than 100 senior brothers and sisters left here. And Fairy Xian looked more and more like an old man who was nearing the end of his life. He was very old, with dull eyes, and seemed a little numb. Only when he heard that his disciple had died of illness did his eyes flash with clarity and sadness. During this period, Chu Wanli begged his senior brothers and sisters not to go outside the gate again. He didn't want to see the people he knew die one by one in front of him. This made him feel like his heart was being cut by a knife, and he felt extremely heartbroken every day and night. But things went against our wishes. Whenever the senior brothers and sisters talked about this matter, they seemed like a different person, with their faces full of determination. After seeing this, Chu Wanli seemed to want to say something, but gave up helplessly. But there's one good news, that is, Master and the others are not as anxious as before, which means that they can stay with him for a little longer. Today, Fairy Xian was meditating on the high platform, as usual, muttering to herself and practicing. Just a wisp of her breath made the entire Xianzong tremble. Even beyond the immortal treasure house, while crossing the sea, there are stars reflected, the heavens are shrouded, and countless creatures are trembling. Nangong Chen watched this scene, secretly amazed, and couldn't imagine the extent of the other party's cultivation. This also made him more curious about the realm above saints. Suddenly, Fairy Xian seemed to sense something and open her eyes. The fiery light in her eyes could even penetrate the 9 heavens, like the sun in the sky, extremely dazzling. He looked towards the dark portal, his expression focused, and his face suddenly changed. Damn it again! Rumble. Outside the pitch-black portal, there seemed to be a huge object crashing into the room, making a loud noise. Below the stage, the remaining disciples were shocked when they sensed it, and then they stared at the door with anger and fighting spirit. At this moment, above this portal, after being carved with runes, a star rune gradually appeared, emitting a silver light, as if it could purify everything in the world. And they also called this portal, which had never been named, the Star Gate. Chu Wanli also widened his eyes, looked towards the Star Gate, clenched his fists, and his eyes were very red. It's all because of them. If it weren't for these monsters, my senior brothers and sisters wouldn't have been buried there, and wouldn't have died of illness here. At this moment, countless people looked at Fairy Xian, waiting for his final order. Among them, some are missing an eye, and some had broken limbs and were unable to move easily. But even so, one could still feel the terrifying fighting spirit in their hearts. This battle will be the final fight to the death. Obviously, Fairy Xian also realized this. He sighed, as if he had already anticipated the arrival of this day. He looked at Chu Wanli in the crowd with a slight smile on his face. Soon, a divine thought shot into Chu Wanli's mind. Wanli, I never thought that you're the most outstanding genius in Xianxian sect over the years. Even I misjudged you. Moreover, you came from the 10 realms. I'm very pleased that you have reached the level of a venerable at such a young age. However, those monsters in the outside world are too powerful. Even I, a supreme, am no match for them. They're so powerful that it makes me despair. Once you leave for this battle, I don't know when you'll be able to return. As the last disciple of our Xianxian sect, I have sealed all of Xianxian sect's inheritance in the center of the palace. Only you can open it. I hope you won't avenge us now, but revitalize Xianxian sect. Don't let the number 1 sect in the 3,000 states wither because of us. Be careful. If you don't have absolute strength, don't ever step into this Star Gate in the future, and don't come looking for us. If we are still alive, we will come back. If not, everything will remain the same. Having said that, Fairy Xian hesitated a little, but still said it. Chu Wanli's eyes were red as he listened to every word and kept them firmly in his mind. He knew that, after today, they might never come back. At this moment, the senior brothers and sisters beside him seemed to have sensed something, looked at him, and said jokingly with a relaxed look, "Why are you crying, Wanli? With your talent, you will definitely become a being that surpasses the supreme beings in the future. You will be a powerful person who stands tall and proud. You don't want your brothers and sisters to tell your secrets to others, right?" "I'm not crying." After hearing this, Chu Wanli said subconsciously. Seeing Chu Wanli like this, the senior brothers and sisters were stunned, as if they saw the young boy from more than 10 years ago. At that time, they were still gathered here in an orderly manner. They looked reminiscing, with a hint of sadness on their faces, but they hid it well. Chapter 229, Chu Wanli becomes an immortal, Ji Feng, the spirit of the world. Okay. No crying, I'm leaving. Take good care of yourself in the future. A senior sister who was relatively close to Chu Wanli glanced at him, as if wanting to remember his last appearance, chuckled, and turned to leave. After hearing this, Chu Wanli nodded heavily. The next moment, Fairy Xian activated the formation, and the mark on the Star Gate became more and more dazzling. After seeing this, the other disciples also realized that it was time to leave. They took one last look at the palace, and then disappeared through the gate. After seeing them leave completely, Chu Wanli finally couldn't help sobbing softly. He knew that after this farewell, he didn't know if they would ever meet again in this life. Maybe after that, he would be the only one left. When Nangong Chen saw this scene, his eyes were complicated and his mind was full of thoughts. If I were to face this situation in the future, I would probably be no better than the other party. In the following years, Chu Wanli practiced diligently. He wanted to reach a higher level before he could revitalize the sect. Otherwise, with his current strength, it would be difficult for him to take charge of the overall situation even in the outside world. Of course, Nangong Chen could do nothing but watch Chu Wanli's cultivation. Chu Wanli's realm was much higher than his. He was a little confused at first, but later, his eyes became clearer and he was able to gain enlightenment more and more. If he could understand, even a little bit, it would be a great opportunity for him right now. This is the deduction of the cultivation of a peerless monster from ancient times, and it is an unreserved one. If it were in the outside world, this would be an opportunity that can't be found by chance. Soon, Nangong Chen followed the other party's practice rhythm and fell into enlightenment, and his whole state became extremely mysterious. It was as if he was also practicing with the other person. I don't know how long it took, maybe 1,000 years, maybe 10,000 years. Finally, Chu Wanli opened his eyes and exhaled a breath of fairy air. At this moment, he can suppress an entire region with just a wisp of his breath, and in a single thought, he can sweep across the entire world and cause the heaven and earth to collapse. He has surpassed the sages, the ancient ancestors, and the Zhuangzi. He has achieved a true immortal, that is, a mortal immortal. At this moment, Nangong Chen also opened his eyes, and a Taoist aura burst out from him. He has a terrifying talent, especially with the blessing of his double pupils. He can even deduce the skills practiced by Chu Wanli to a higher level. If he had a physical body, his cultivation level would probably be even stronger than Chu Wanli's. However, for Nangong Chen, it was like having a very long dream. He dreamed that he was the other person. The other person was practicing, and he was also practicing. The other person was evolving the rules, and he was also evolving the rules. It was as if at this moment, he had also entered into that illusory realm and achieved true immortality. Chu Wanli already looked middle-aged, with a beard and long flowing hair, but he didn't care. The first thing he did when he opened his eyes was to see if they had returned. Seeing that there was no one here except him, he couldn't help feeling a little lonely. It took him 10,000 years to achieve the status of a true immortal. In the entire 9 heavens and 10 realms, he was considered an extremely extraordinary person, even unprecedented and unparalleled, of course, in their era. However, this is also related to Chu Wanli's physique. He has a pure and innocent heart of an immortal, and is destined to have smooth cultivation in this life. He does not need to cultivate through fighting like other geniuses. On the contrary, the more comfortable he was, the faster his cultivation would be. Even within this immortal treasure house, some otherworldly thunder tribulations would be weakened. Of course, there's another important factor in the pure heart of an immortal, and that is obsession. The deeper a person's obsession is, the faster his cultivation speed will be. With my current strength, even if I want to go outside the restricted area of the entire 3,000 Dao states, no one can stop me. In that case, why don't I go into the Stargate and wipe out everything? When I come back, I will definitely revitalize the sect. Let the Xianxian sect appear before the world. Chu Wanli murmured. Afterwards, he carved all the things that happened during these years on the stone walls of the palace. Now that he has become an immortal, everything he carved carries a sense of immortality, an immortal aura that transcends all living beings. The pen is as sharp as a sword, and the words are like thunder. Soon, the majestic ancient characters were carved on the stone wall. If I don't return in the future, those who are destined to enter this place and pass the test will obtain all the inheritances of Xianxian sect. At the same time, he will shoulder the heavy responsibility of reviving the Xianxian sect and swear an oath by the way of heaven. Everything that has happened during these 10,000 years should not be buried here. Zhuangzi's death cannot be in vain. If the catastrophe disappears in the future, I hope that those who are destined to see us will tell the world about our contributions on behalf of Zhuangzi. Chu Wanli muttered to himself, and then seemed to have thought of something, and casually made a token. The token was milky white in color, carrying with it a mysterious aura of heaven and earth, and a majestic pressure. On it, there were 2 large characters Wanli written. Then he shook his head, as if he thought something was not good, and changed it to Chu Zhu. After all, he is now more than a little older than the previous one. Moreover, he was also the founder of the Chu family in that era. My second brother and his men must have brought the Chu family to a peak. If so, we should open up an entrance to this immortal treasure and let them guard it for generations. This token tells them what I said, and also tells them about some of the skills I passed down. It can be considered my compensation to them over the years. If there is a descendant of the Chu family, just a drop of blood can activate it. Chu Wanli's eyes flashed with guilt, and he spoke. Then, without any regrets, he put on his Taoist robe and activated the Star Gate in a moment. Seeing the Star Gate wide open, he completely destroyed the formation on the ground. In order to prevent any bad people from coming in and disturbing his brothers and sisters who were sleeping underground, he also set up a killing formation in the formation where the immortals were hidden. After doing all this, he looked into the depths of the Stargate, his eyes revealing a murderous intent, and he left without looking back. Nangong Chen was shocked when he saw this. He then realized that the formation and the characters on the stone wall were all the work of this person. Also, it turns out that this person is Chu Zhu. Chu Zhu is actually a true immortal. Seeing that there was no one here, Nangong Chen felt a little dazed, as if everything was just a dream. Before he could come to his senses, he heard a childish voice ringing in his ears. After watching for so long, what do you think, young man with double pupils? At some point, a little boy appeared beside Nangong Chen. The boy had deep eyes and a maturity on his face that did not belong to his age. He was looking at Nangong Chen meaningfully. Nangong Chen's pupils shrank slightly. He didn't expect that someone else could enter the stone wall. Moreover, the other party was able to detect his presence, which meant that he was not from this era, but from the same era and space as himself, and was a strong man. But judging from the other person's tone, he didn't sound like someone who wanted to harm him. If he wanted to harm him, would he ask like that? Thinking of this, Nangong Chen's expression returned to calmness, and he uttered two words, tragic. Oh, tragic, it fits in with Chu Wanli's life. The boy nodded, then paused. Besides this, is there nothing else? His tone seemed a little surprised. Logically speaking, shouldn't his blood be boiling with excitement, wanting to jump out of the Stargate and fight those monsters for 300 rounds? Why is this boy so strange? Nangong Chen naturally didn't think so. With his current strength, even if he wanted to jump out, he would be cannon fodder. He certainly wouldn't do such a stupid thing. Anything else? Nangong Chen was a little confused and didn't understand what the other party wanted to say. Seeing that the other party didn't understand what he meant, the boy twitched his mouth, then shook his head and changed the subject. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore. I've been asked to come here to help you. Do you have any questions? As long as I can say it, I'll tell you everything. Nangong Chen raised his eyebrows after hearing this. What do you mean by, tell me everything you want to say? There's nothing you can't say. Who are you? World Spirit of the 11th Realm. You can call me Ji Feng. Ji Feng responded without hesitation. The spirit of the world? Ji Feng? Nangong Chen was a little surprised. He didn't expect that the little boy in front of him was actually the world spirit of the 11th realm. But isn't the 11th realm only 9 heavens and 10 realms? Where did this come from? Nangong Chen couldn't help but frown, wondering if the other party was lying to him. I can't tell you this, but I am indeed the world spirit of the 11th realm. Ji Feng seemed to see what he was thinking, shook his head, and explained. After hearing this, Nangong Chen's eyes became even more strange, and he became more certain of what he was thinking. He is really an old monster. I didn't expect that these old monsters like to rejuvenate, it's true. By the way, tell me, who entrusted you with this task? Nangong Chen seemed to have thought of something and said with some confusion. Who on earth could make the spirit of the world come personally to relieve his worries? I can't tell you that either, Ji Feng said without hesitation. But seeing the other person's cold face, he still bit the bullet and whispered, is the other person someone close to you? Nangong Chen's expression finally softened. He couldn't say anything, so what was the point of him? But the range of people around me is too large. Also, what kind of monster is outside that portal? And who is the Jiqian that Zhuang Xianzi mentioned? Nangong Chen raised the questions in his mind, and things got back on track. The monster outside the portal, well, haven't you killed it before? It seems you are ready to explode again. Ji Feng looked at him strangely, not understanding why the other party would ask such a question. After hearing this, Nangong Chen's eyes were shocked. Isn't that what they call strange? And the other party actually knew the formation that he had set up? That's not right. If those creatures outside the gate are alien, then doesn't that mean that monsters have infiltrated? Thinking of this, Nangong Chen was a little shocked. He didn't expect to find out such a big news. As for that Tianyuan, he has a great cause and effect. If I tell him, he will come, and then we will all die. Ji Feng responded to his next question by shaking his head, his eyes seeming to be filled with fear. Chapter 2, 30 Bloodline. Su Li and the others are in crisis. Nangong Chen's pupils suddenly shrank. He didn't expect that Tianyuan, whom Fairy Xian cursed that day, would be so powerful. Just a thought could be contaminated by the power of cause and effect, and it can come here and kill them on the spot. Even the spirit of the world in front of him looked terrified. It was hard to imagine what kind of existence this was. Just kidding, this is my home turf. Even if he comes, he can't beat me. You don't have to worry. When Ji Feng saw his expression, he smiled and finished what he was saying. After hearing this, Nangong Chen felt relieved, and some black lines appeared on his forehead. This old man seems to be a bit dishonest. But even so, I can't say too much about him. You've heard too much and become tainted by karma. He might not notice you now, but he will definitely come to you one day in the future. So, I can't tell you too much. The only thing I can say is that Ji Tian is not a good person. Ji Feng seemed to know what he was thinking, and said with a smile, revealing a pair of big white teeth. Not a good person? Nangong Chen's eyes were complicated. He was secretly cautious and did not completely believe the other party. After all, in this world, who would tell you the truth? Everything must be based on what he sees. All right, what you just said about those strange creatures that were killed in the immortal treasure, were they actually the monsters outside the Stargate? Nangong Chen seemed to have thought of something, frowned, and spoke. Could it be that after all these years, the Stargate here has been lost? That's why so many alien creatures have sneaked in. Then why are these strange things only found in the 11th domain, but not in the Xintian domain? Yes and no. Besides, how do you know that there are no monsters like these sneaking in from your Xintian territory? Ji Feng said with a smile, his tone somewhat meaningful. Nangong Chen's face changed. What the other party meant was that there really were monsters sneaking into their Xintian domain. He witnessed with his own eyes that even Xianxian sect, the #1 sect in the upper realm, suffered heavy casualties after entering the world beyond the Stargate, and was even completely wiped out. That was a monster that even immortals could kill, and now he was told that Xintian territory also had it? If that happened, wouldn't it be the end of him? Thinking of this, Nangong Chen's eyes couldn't help but become solemn. Seeing that the other party was frightened by him, Ji Feng raised the corner of his mouth and said, "But you don't have to worry too much. There are just a few ants that sneaked in from BND Pass. Their strength is not very strong. For your strong men, they should be able to deal with them. As for the many exotic things in this immortal treasure, I stole a piece of it from a foreign land to hone you geniuses." Nangong Chen heaved a sigh of relief after hearing that the aliens that sneaked in were not so powerful. However, after realizing what was happening, he was a little confused. Border pass? Foreign land? Ji Feng seemed to see the doubts in his heart, but he didn't say much. For him now, it was too early. He had seen too many geniuses, and after seeing the truth, their faith in the Tao was shattered, and some of them were unable to recover from the blow. After seeing this, Nangong Chen understood what the other party meant. He thought about it in his heart and did not ask any more questions. You don't have much time left. What you young people need to do now is to improve your own strength so that you can have some self-defense ability in the future battle. Ji Feng glanced at the sky, his face slightly sighing, then paused, looking straight at Nangong Chen. Especially you, the young man with double pupils. The blood flowing in your veins carries a great honor and mission. It is destined that you will stand on that battlefield in the future and become a thorn in the eyes of countless aliens. His eyes, as deep as the starry sky, seemed to be able to see through the skin and flesh and see the hot and mysterious blood. Nangong Chen was bewildered when he heard this. Before he could say anything more, a circle of light lit up around him. At the same time, the dizziness in his head appeared again. This means that he has to leave here. His expression was complicated and he wanted to say something more, but after hearing the other party's next sentence, his pupils suddenly shrank. Go out. Your two beloved ones in the outside world seem to be in danger. If you don't come out now, it will be too late. Oh, by the way, I have to remind you that there is something in the Xianxian sect's inheritance that is extremely important to you. If you can, you must get it. Ji Feng looked at his gradually dissipating soul, as if he had thought of something, and spoke slowly. At this moment, the palace was in a mess and a fierce battle was breaking out. Chu Yin held the sky spear in his hand, and the spear shot out like a dragon. Boom! The next moment, a brilliant spear force burst out. The cold light was so sharp that it seemed to tear the entire space apart. Opposite, it was a spirit lion with golden wings. Its body was extremely huge, and its eyes were cold and emotionless. The aura it exuded was intimidating, and it was at the middle stage of the Divine King realm. If Nangong Chen were here, he would definitely discover that these were the two stone statues passing by outside the palace gate, and now, for some unknown reason, they were suddenly activated. I saw the holy heavenly lion with its hair trembling, and it seemed that something was brewing in its mouth. A terrifying power was hovering above it. Roar! In an instant, a terrifying sound wave erupted and swept around. The brilliant spear force collapsed and disappeared in an instant in the face of this sound wave. Seeing this, Chu Yan's face changed, and her figure flashed as she quickly retreated to the rear. Puff! Chu Yan spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face turned extremely pale, and there was a hint of fear in her beautiful eyes. This ferocious beast is definitely the strongest one she has ever fought against. No doubt about it. Chu Yan took advantage of the brief moment to look towards Su Li. Seeing that Nangong Chen in the light circle had not yet woken up, there was a hint of despair in her beautiful eyes. The battles during these 5 days have already reached her limit, and she can't hold on for much longer. If Nangong Chen doesn't wake up, she and Su Li will probably die here today. On the other side, Su Li's situation was not very good either. She had to divide her attention to protect Nangong Chen's body while also guarding against the opponent's attacks. Su Li's hands formed a Buddhist shape, and in the sky, ripples of magic power surged, condensing into a lifelike ice phoenix, charging towards the opposite side. Upon seeing this, the holy lion on the other side lashed out with its huge claws, bringing with it a terrifying force that weighed more than 10 million pounds, enough to shatter a small mountain. The collision of the two was like a collision of meteorites, erupting with tremendous power. The light dissipated, and the huge body of the holy heavenly lion flew backwards and hit the wall directly. The body seemed to be frozen. However, the next moment, the holy heavenly lion roared angrily. His eyes were extremely cold, and a ray of light flowed on his originally shaky figure. The tattered body recovered instantly, and the aura it exuded became even stronger. Seeing that the other party had returned to his prime, Su Li frowned slightly, his eyes were cold, and he said in a low voice, "It's really difficult." During these 5 days, she had wiped out the other person's vitality dozens of times, but every time when he was about to die, a light would flow out and heal him. To her, the opponent's strength was not strong, but he was extremely difficult to deal with. If she could not solve the problem in one go, she would probably be exhausted to death today. However, she now has little strength left. It turned out that just a few days ago, after Nangong Chen fell into a coma, the palace seemed to have triggered some taboo and suddenly awakened the 2 stone lions outside the door. As soon as the 2 lions woke up, they attacked them madly, as if they had seen their mortal enemy. At the beginning, they naturally killed the other side's 2 holy lions several times, but every time the other side died, its strength increased a little, and then it was reborn from the ashes, which was extremely weird. By now, the strength of these 2 holy lions has reached the point where they can compete with them. Even Chu Yin finds it difficult to resist. If Su Li were alone, she would be able to handle it with ease, but the main problem was that she had to divide her attention to protect Nangong Chen, so naturally she had no better solution and was trapped in this endless cycle. Su Li looked at Nangong Chen within the circle of light, a hint of worry in her beautiful eyes. It's been so long, and he still hasn't woken up? What on earth is hidden in that stone wall? She was more worried about Nangong Chen than herself. He had fallen into a coma without any warning that day, and he still hadn't woken up until today. If he had met with an accident, Su Li was in a daze and didn't dare to think about it anymore. Then, Su Li looked at the extremely weak Chu Yin and said, "Saint Chu, please take care of Nangong Chen for me. I will deal with them." But okay. After hearing this, Chu Yin wanted to say something, but thinking about her current physical condition, she had no choice but to agree. She came to Su Li, took a pill, and stared at the 2 holy lions, not wanting to give them any chance to take advantage. Has it reached the late stage of God King? After Chu Yin felt that the aura of the 2 holy lions had changed again, her pupil shrank, and she looked at Su Li with great worry. If he kills a few more times, the opponent will be at the peak of the God King level. By then, the opponent's strength will be terrifying. What they can do now is to deal with the holy heavenly lion, delay for a while, and see if they can wait for Nangong Chen to wake up. Soon, when the 2 holy heavenly lions saw Su Li coming up alone, their eyes flashed with ferocity, and they pounced on her in an instant. "Intruder, die." One of them spoke in human language with a cold tone and a terrifying aura of oppression. Chapter 231. In despair, Nangong Chen wakes up. They are pure-blooded creatures, and even among the numerous ferocious beasts, they are one of the top races on the list. When they were alive, they were the guardian beasts of Zhuangxiamen. After death, they turned into obsessions, guarding this palace. When Su Li saw this, a phoenix-like aura burst out from his ice-blue eyes. At the same time, the ice phoenix mark between her eyebrows began to shine brightly, as if she had entered another state. Her face was cold and indifferent, as if a female emperor had descended. This pressure was so terrifying that even the holy heavenly lion, which had lost its intelligence, was instinctively trembling at this moment. This was the suppression from the supreme bloodline. Endless cold air covered the palace, instantly turning it into a kingdom of ice and snow. The chill was overwhelming, and that beautiful figure stood in the void like a master of heaven and earth. This was also the first time that Su Li had used his full strength since reaching this level of cultivation. When Chu Yin saw this scene, her beautiful eyes were shocked, and a bitter smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. So, she hasn't used her full strength yet? At this moment, she also knew why Nangong Chen could walk with Su Li. They were simply 2 monsters in the world. Su Li walked like a lotus, her snow-white hair fluttering in the air, her delicate face emitting endless coldness. When she raised her hand, countless ice cones fell from the void. The cold light is dazzling. These are not ordinary ice cones, but are made of black ice. They are indestructible and look like magical weapons. The next moment, the two holy lions were instantly pierced through and shattered into pieces, falling in a pool of blood. Good opportunity. When Su Li saw this, her beautiful eyes lit up and countless cold air covered it, trying to freeze it. However, at this moment, a sacred aura burst out from the two holy lions, suppressing the cold air. At the same time, the opponent's originally somewhat tattered body has recovered at this moment, and his aura is constantly rising, approaching the peak of the God King. He is only one step away from the peak of the God King. Trouble. Su Li concentrated and murmured. Unexpectedly, the sacred aura from the other person could restrain her coldness. This is extremely disadvantageous for her. Chu Yin, who was watching the battle not far away, also said inwardly, "Oh no." At this moment, no one noticed that Nangong Chen, who was lying in the circle of light, had his eyelids twitching. Soon, the two holy lions reached their peak strength and pounced again. Their attack was so terrifying that the entire void was shaking. If an ordinary peak-level God King were here, he would have vomited blood and would not be able to withstand it. Looking at the giant claw in the void, Su Li held the white jade sword. His cultivation burst out, and he swung the sword. In an instant, a dazzling light burst out, and sword intent surged out. The sharp sword force actually blocked their attacks. After this sword strike, Su Li's face turned pale, as if he had used up all his strength. She had already consumed too much energy in the past few days, and now, after swinging this sword, she had used up most of her spiritual power. Just as she was catching her breath, two holy lions rushed towards her from both sides, as if in coordination, with cold gleams on their faces, wanting to tear her apart. Su Li gritted her teeth. If she took the blow head-on, she would definitely die. Soon, she made up her mind, and a decisive look flashed in her beautiful eyes. A terrifying ice crystal phoenix condensed behind her, with such overwhelming momentum that the entire sky was covered with flying snow. This is her most powerful attack after integrating the true phoenix technique, transformation into a phoenix. The next moment, Su Li turned into a divine phoenix of ice and snow, flapping its wings and flying away, carrying with it a tremendous pressure. That aura was like a real divine phoenix descending here, so much so that the two holy heavenly lions couldn't help but tremble, as if they had seen something terrifying. If they were still alive, they would have already knelt down before Su Li with eyes full of submission. Of course, the opponent was completely dead at this moment, so he could only instinctively release his attack instinct. The two holy lions, with their golden wings behind them, stirred up a huge storm in an attempt to block the attack. Boom! The breath of the ice phoenix is so terrifying that everything will eventually turn into frozen soil wherever she passes. The breath is extremely cold, as if you are in the extreme snowfield of the nine heavens. Under this attack, the holy lion naturally had no power to fight back and instantly turned into two ice sculptures. This time, Su Li controlled his strength and did not kill him completely. Seeing that the other party had been frozen into an ice sculpture, Chu Yin, who was not far away, secretly breathed a sigh of relief, with a hint of shock in the depths of her beautiful eyes. Unexpectedly, she actually did it. A hint of fatigue flashed across Su Li's phoenix eyes. She transformed into a human form and slowly walked towards this side. Her spiritual energy has been completely exhausted at this moment, and she has no fighting ability at all. If any random God King comes, he might be able to kill her. "Are you okay?" Chu Yin asked softly, her beautiful eyes showing some worry. Su Li shook her head. It was just that her spiritual energy was exhausted. She would be able to recover after a short rest. She looked at Nangong Chen and found that he was still asleep, and she felt a little scared. Could it be that something really happened to Nangong Chen? In the past few days, she has been looking at the runes on the stone wall, but she can't find any clues. She doesn't even know how Nangong Chen's soul was devoured by it. Chu Yin also looked at Nangong Chen and sighed. She didn't expect to discover such a thing after coming in. Nangong Chen has been in a coma for about 5 days, and there is only 1 day left before the end of the Immortal Hidden. If the other party didn't wake up before the end, and they didn't know how to set up the formation, they would probably be trapped here for the rest of their lives. Chu Yin thought to herself, hoping that Nangong Chen would not encounter any danger. Roar. And at this moment, a beast roar sounded again. Not good. The two women looked at each other and said at the same time, I saw the two huge ice sculptures, and at this moment a sacred aura filled the air, bursting out from the inside of the ice sculptures. and the ice and snow that had not melted for thousands of years now showed signs of melting. The roar just now was made by one of the holy heavenly lions. The next moment, the ice on the two holy lions shattered, and the broken ice fell to the ground. In the center of the palace, a white fairy light spread out, covering their bodies, and there was actually a sense of fusion. After seeing this, Su Li and Chu Yan's faces changed drastically. They knew clearly how terrifying it would be if these two merged together. Chu Yan gritted his teeth, holding the sky spear, and ran away, with a hint of heroic spirit between his eyebrows. Su Li no longer has the ability to fight. At this moment, the only one who can stop him is her. An extreme spear intent burst out from Chu Yan's body, and with one shot, a shocking spear force surged out. This shot was her strongest attack. Even the 1,000-year-old black iron was as fragile as thin paper in front of it. However, it was too late. The immortal light dissipated, and a holy lion with an extremely powerful aura appeared in front of them. It had a pair of huge wings growing on its body, and just by flapping its wings, it could stir up terrifying waves. As his eyes opened and closed, a gleam of light flowed, and a blazing coldness burst out from them. The aura emitted by the holy heavenly lion at this moment has reached the peak of the God King. There is even a faint illusion of being a semi-saint. Boom! The next moment, the holy heavenly lion's tail, which was more than 10 meters long, swung with such great force that it smashed into the air, causing loud explosions. This attack, with tremendous divine power, went straight towards Chu Yan. Chu Yan did not retreat. She gritted her teeth and held the sky spear horizontally in front of her, trying to block the attack. At the same time, a sense of powerlessness and despair emerged in her eyes. She knew she couldn't resist, but there was no other way. She had to resist, even if it meant her death. As the terrifying divine power covered her, her hair fluttered, and she could even feel that she was only one step away from death. In an instant, endless memories flashed in Chu Yan's mind like a kaleidoscope of flowers. Father, mother, brother, I'm sorry. Nangong Chen, I owe you my life, and I'm paying it back. When Chu Yan thought of this, a smile appeared on her pale and beautiful face. In the end, she was inexplicably looking towards Su Li, wanting to see Nangong Chen for the last time. Where are the others? Chu Yan was stunned. She saw that Nangong Chen's figure had disappeared from the circle of light around Su Li, and only Su Li was there. Brush. The next moment, a figure as fast as lightning passed by her. Chu Yan looked back. Her beautiful eyes narrowed slightly, as if she had seen something incredible. The holy heavenly lion, who was at the peak of the God King level, flew backwards in the air like a kite with a broken string and slammed heavily into the stone wall, causing endless waves of air, and a figure in white clothes as white as snow had appeared in the void at some point, with a pair of terrifying eyes filled with coldness. It's him, Nangong Chen. Chu Yan widened her beautiful eyes before she reacted and seemed to be a little excited. Even she herself didn't know why this feeling came to her. Nangong Chen was filled with murderous intent. His pupils were extremely cold, and he activated the divine elephant prison-suppressing power. The next moment, golden blood burst out from his body. Behind it, there's a phantom of a divine elephant, with its feet on the sky and its eyes looking down with disdain, as if it can suppress everything. Nangong Chen activated the secret of movement, and his speed was fast enough to tear the void. Before St. Tianyuan could react, he clenched his fist and punched down. At this moment, he was like a real, human-shaped, ferocious beast, beating the huge, holy heavenly lion with punch after punch until it was covered in blood, and endless blood was spilling from its body. Seeing this scene, Chu Yan was a little shocked. It was the first time she saw Nangong Chen so angry. Chapter 232. Killing the Holy Heavenly Lion. Qi Yao's stunned concentration, 2 in 1, for 1,500 words. Not far away. After Su Li took the holy medicine, her exquisite and perfect face also regained a lot of color. She looked up and saw this scene, with a hint of horror in the depths of her eyes. Unexpectedly, the combined holy lion was tortured like a toy in Nangong Chen's hands. How far has its strength reached? Roar! The holy lion screamed in pain. Even though it had lost consciousness, the instinct in its body told it that the human in front of it was invincible. Seeing that the other party's life was gone, Nangong Chen's eyes were cold, and an unparalleled aura burst out from behind him, condensing into the figure of a god king in white. At this moment, 2 terrifying Dharma images were standing in the void, causing great shock to people. When the holy heavenly lion saw this, even though it had lost consciousness, its body couldn't stop shaking after feeling this breath. It could feel that the human in front of it was brewing an extremely powerful force. Seeing that the situation was going well, Nangong Chen had a flash of immortal energy in his eyes, and he threw a punch directly, without any hesitation. In an instant, an extremely bright fist light appeared, so dazzling that it seemed to illuminate the entire 9 heavens. The divine elephant prison-suppressing power, the great Tao immortal scripture, and the heavenly emperor fist all come out at the same time. Under the blessing of the triple power, the sky is trembling and the earth is shaking. The holy heavenly lion's eyes were filled with terror, and it wanted to escape. The instinct in its body told it that it would die if it received this punch. He flapped his wings as hard as he could, tried to use his wings to escape from here, but he was locked by an extremely powerful aura. The next moment, it turned around, its pupils suddenly shrank, and there was a flash of fist light shining. At this moment, Su Li and Chu Yin were also watching the scene, their red lips slightly parted. Boom! With a sound that shook the world, the holy heavenly lion, who was at the peak of the God King level, was directly killed by a punch. It turned into starlight and returned to the stone statue. In the void, Nangong Chen was dressed in spotless white clothes, with double pupils looking around and black hair fluttering, like a natural master. Hiss! At this moment, the entire palace was silent, and you could hear a pin drop. Chu Yin looked at the figure in white, and after she came to her senses, her beautiful eyes became more complicated. Unexpectedly, Nangong Chen could deal with this ancient creature so easily. It was as if since that day in the 9 heavens secret realm, she had become increasingly unable to see through this man, whose rise was too fast. This has never happened in any other era. Chu Yin couldn't help but think that when crossing the sea, even though Nangong Chen was targeted by the monster from the God Clan, he remained calm and composed. Did he really not take the other person seriously? With such strength, he could definitely dominate the entire immortal treasure. Since I met him, he seems to have never been defeated. His strength is far from this. He has reached a level that no one expected. He is underestimated by everyone. Even the Overlord underestimated him. It seems that things are going to change in the second round of the immortal treasure. On the other side, Su Li's beautiful eyes were also shocked, and she could not forget it for a long time. She knew very well how difficult it was to deal with the holy heavenly lion, but Nangong Chen still killed it easily. Although if she had recovered to her peak state, she could have fought the holy beast for a few moves, but she was far from being as abnormal as Nangong Chen, who didn't even have time to breathe. No, this can't go on. She needs to practice hard. She can't let this gap get any bigger. Su Li seemed to have made up her mind, and her extremely beautiful face also revealed a sense of decisiveness. At the same time, there was a hint of curiosity in her eyes. During these days, she and Nangong Chen have almost been living together, and she has never seen how Nangong Chen practices. Logically speaking, the two of them have practiced for more time, so she must have spent more time than Nangong Chen. But why is he so strong, even though he is like this? What a pervert! Su Li spat softly and looked over with her beautiful eyes. When Nangong Chen saw the holy heavenly lion transform into a stream of light and disappear, he suddenly realized, was this one of the tests set by Chu Wanli? I don't know if there are any more tests left. Nangong Chen thought to himself, and then walked towards the two women. Thank you, Miss Chu Yin, for taking care of me these days. Nangong Chen said softly, bowed slightly, and seeing that the other party looked weak, he floated a holy medicine away. Just now, he learned from Su Li that the other party had been staying by his side these days without a single complaint. Just the scene of her self-sacrifice had moved him a little. It seems that it is time to repay another favor. Nangong Chen said secretly in his heart. He never expected that the woman he had only met once in the 9 heavens secret realm would do this much for him. They were a life-or-death friendship and could no longer be considered an ordinary friend. If Chu Yin hadn't given her all these days, Su Li alone might have died in the past few days. When Chu Yin saw the holy medicine in front of her, her face was stunned. She didn't expect Nangong Chen to take out another holy medicine for her. She did not forget that Nangong Chen had taken out a holy medicine in the cave outside, just like today. You know, this is a holy medicine. Ordinary families only have a few plants. Even top families like theirs only have a dozen or so plants. Moreover, they must not be used unless absolutely necessary. Each plant is priceless. How come in the other party's hands, this holy medicine is like cabbage? Although Chu Yin had some doubts in her heart, she did not speculate too much. No matter what, the holy medicine was extremely precious. She was just lacking in energy and blood now, so she had no use for this medicine. Thinking of this, Chu Yin shook her head gently and refused aloud. Fellow Taoist Nangong, there's no need for this. Whether I save you or Goddess Su, I'm actually saving myself. Besides, I am fine. The holy medicine is too precious, so please take it back. As soon as he finished speaking, the holy medicine, emitting a faint fairy light, floated back in front of Nangong Chen. She seemed to have thought of something again. Her beautiful eyes dimmed a little, and her red lips parted slightly. You saved me once before, and now I'm doing this for you. So I've repaid you. As for the holy medicine you took in the cave, I will return it to you after I get out. Nangong Chen was a little surprised after hearing this. He didn't expect the other party to refuse, nor did he expect that there would be a hint of alienation in the other party's tone, as if he wanted to sever the relationship. However, there was something strange about it, but he couldn't explain it clearly. Okay, in that case, then we'll be even once you return that holy medicine. Nangong Chen didn't think much about it, took back the holy medicine, and continued as she said. For him, it is better to have less trouble than more. Since the other party doesn't care, he won't have to lick it for the other party. After hearing the words, Liang Qing, Chu Yan's body trembled. She lowered her head. Her beautiful eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of mist, and her nose suddenly felt a little sore. Good, she whispered, a tremor in her voice. After hearing this, Nangong Chen nodded calmly. He naturally didn't notice anything wrong with the other party. Suli on the side also felt a little strange, but did not say anything and just watched the scene quietly. Soon, Nangong Chen looked at Suli. The two glanced at each other and seemed to know what each other was thinking. Are you tired? Fine, that'll do. For the two of them, although they are not yet an old married couple, they have shared joys and sorrows for a long time. If they say some words of gratitude at this moment, it would seem a bit strange. Of course, this also shows that the relationship between the two is extraordinary. When Chu Yan saw this scene, there was a bitter feeling on her lips, and her beautiful eyes became even darker. I didn't expect that the relationship between them would reach this point. So, why did you suddenly faint? Suli broke the atmosphere and spoke, her beautiful eyes showing some curiosity. She saw with her own eyes that Nangong Chen fainted after looking at the runes on the stone wall. Nangong Chen thought for a while, and then briefly recounted what had happened inside. However, a lot of content was concealed, such as the conversation with the world spirit. After hearing this, the two women were also shocked. Unexpectedly, Nangong Chen saw so many things after entering. What immortals, Zhuangxiamen, things from foreign lands. These are all things they have never heard of. In other words, the immortals who were here before were fighting the monsters outside the Stargate. Suli asked, her tone thoughtful, a hint of respect emerging from her beautiful eyes. That's right, but in the end no one came back. Nangong Chen nodded, as if he had thought of something, and said in a deep voice, with a hint of sadness in his eyes. They're all true heroes. In order to protect the entire 9 heavens and 10 realms, and to prevent the monsters outside the Stargate from rushing out, they risked their lives and threw themselves into it with the strength of their entire sect. I didn't expect that there is such a group of unknown people in this world. Nangong Chen felt a little sad. If he hadn't come here by chance, he might not have the chance to understand in the future. He was deeply impressed by every person there. For example, Zhuangxianzi, who cursed all the time but led the entire Xianxian sect forward. Or maybe Chu Wanli, the young boy who was very naive at the beginning, shouldering the prosperity and mission of the sect, became an immortal and stepped into the Stargate for revenge. As immortals, they could naturally flee to save their lives, leaving the Stargate unguarded. Even if the enemy monsters invaded, they could survive for a long time with their means. But they all chose to stay there and fight those overly powerful monsters, which was enough to prove their inner responsibility and commitment. If there were not tens of millions of people like this, the 9 heavens and 10 realms would have fallen long ago. Lives would have been lost, blood would have flowed everywhere, and war would have been raging. And he couldn't live peacefully until he was 18 after traveling through time. Deep down, Nangong Chen was still grateful and admired them. After all, they saved his life. Seeing his downcast expression, Suli guessed something. A hint of red flashed in her eyes as she consoled him. They might not be dead yet. After all, you have never set foot in the world beyond the Stargate. It's already amazing that you can witness their glory and history. If they knew that everything they did was not in vain and that a talented junior like you knew about it, they would definitely be very happy. Suli spoke softly, and every word touched his heart. After hearing this, Nangong Chen felt warm in his heart, but after he realized what was happening, he was a little surprised. How could this be something said by a 3-no girl? Something's wrong. Is he possessed? Nangong Chen looked at Suli a few times and saw that the other party was still calm, and even looked a little confused when he saw her. What's wrong? Fine. Nangong Chen shook his head and stopped thinking about it. On the other side, Chi Yao was sweating profusely. I almost got found out by this kid. Thinking of this, Chi Yaofeng's eyes were filled with anger. She had never thought that the little brat would let Nangong Chen know about the Stargate so early. And her divine consciousness awakened on its own after hearing the word Stargate, which was a protective measure for Suli. Suli cannot know this now, otherwise it will evoke those memories. If those memories appear, it will be the end of her. Fortunately, I was careful at the time and knew that the little brat had bad intentions. Damn little brat. Once I find out, you're doomed. Thinking of Ji Feng, Qi Yao gritted her teeth and then seemed to think of something. But this kid actually knew all this so early. Could it be that he saw through his bloodline? Su Li, who was in Qi Yao's state, glanced at Nangong Chen with a complicated look in her eyes. Forget it. This kid is lucky and has a long life. He doesn't need to be reminded, and nothing serious should happen to him. Then continue to act for a while until this guy stops talking about this. Chu Yin, on the other side, was stunned when she heard Chu Wanli's memory. Some memories seemed to be stirred up in her mind, and she didn't care about the two people beside her at all. If those monsters come in the future, will you protect me? Suddenly, Su Li asked softly, her beautiful eyes looking at Nangong Chen, and 3,000 silvers scattered like a waterfall. And where he couldn't see, a hint of playfulness appeared on Qi Yao's beautiful face. Let me help you try and see if your man is reliable, little Su Li. After hearing this, Nangong Chen was a little surprised, but he still responded subconsciously, yes. Seeing his response, Qi Yao was stunned. She didn't expect the relationship between these two people to be so good. Why? Qi Yao's mind suddenly jumped, and she asked. She was a little unconvinced that love could really be so great. For her, who had been single for tens of thousands of years, this was obviously something she had never seen before. What's more, she had seen him having ambiguous relationships with other women. Why not? You're my wife, so naturally I have to protect you. It's also like protecting my home. Nangong Chen felt a little strange, but still responded seriously. Why is she acting a little strange? Could she have caught a cold and developed a fever these past few days? That's not right. How could a monk have a fever? Even though he thought so, Nangong Chen couldn't help but touch it. Feeling that the temperature on the other person's forehead was indeed a bit high, Nangong Chen was a little confused. He really had a fever? Qi Yao was stunned. She looked into the young man's sincere and enthusiastic eyes. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Her heart felt like a string was being plucked, and 1,000 thoughts ran through her mind. Suddenly, she trembled, and she felt her forehead as if it was touched. Because she is in control of her body at the moment, she can truly feel everything that this body perceives without any difference at all. However, Qi Yao did not act rashly. She was afraid that this was their normal way of communication. If Nangong Chen noticed anything unusual, it would be all over. Although she is usually by Su Li's side, she sleeps most of the time, and she is not a pervert. So how could she know what the couple did in private? Do you have a fever? After hesitating for a long time, Nangong Chen looked strange and couldn't help but speak. Even after touching it, it became hotter and hotter. For some reason, Nangong Chen found Su Li's red lips more attractive, like a ripe cherry. Qi Yao was a little confused. Fever? What was this? Just when she was stunned for a moment, suddenly, a hot breath rushed up. So, this is a fever? Qi Yao opened her beautiful eyes wide, and her charming face seemed to have crashed. Chapter 233 Goodbye, Chu Wanli. Nangong Chen only lightly kissed Su Li's red lips, and when he saw that Su Li didn't react, he quickly retracted his kiss. This moment happened so quickly that even Chu Yin, who was standing by, didn't notice what happened and was just thinking about it. On the other side, Qi Yao's beautiful eyes widened as she stood there in a daze. The soft touch, just now, made her feel a little flustered. My first kiss in over 10,000 years is gone. Or was it taken away by my reincarnated partner? Her expression was complicated. She glanced at the other person and saw that he acted as if it was his due. She felt a little embarrassed and angry, and kicked him. Of course, the kick was not very powerful, but to outsiders, it seemed like she was acting coquettishly. Humph! Damn scumbag! Qi Yao spat softly, and in an invisible place, a blush appeared on her ears. For some reason, although she was a little angry, she didn't feel disgusted at all. In fact, deep down, she felt a little bit excited. Although she acted like a mature woman in front of Su Li every day and talked freely, she was actually just a fledgling, the kind that had never even held hands. This is the first time I'm facing this kind of thing, so naturally I'm a little upset. Nangong Chen was already feeling a little guilty, so when Qi Yao gave him a light kick, he didn't doubt anything. This was also in line with Sam's character. He coughed lightly, and then said, the assessment here shouldn't be limited to this holy heavenly lion. There should be others. Why don't we explore separately to see if we could trigger it? He did not forget the Shinxian sect inheritance left by Chu Wanli and what Chu Zuling did not get. The holy heavenly lion just now should be just the first test. I just don't know how to trigger the subsequent tests. As soon as these words were spoken, Chu Yin came back to her senses and looked at Nangong Chen. There was some complexity in her beautiful eyes, but she still nodded. Unexpectedly, the other party actually saw Chu Zu, that legendary figure, with their own eyes, and also learned that the inheritance that Chu Zhu left for their Chu family was all in that Chu Zhu order. That is an opportunity left by an immortal. Its preciousness is self-evident. If the other party gets it, will he really give it to her? Chu Yin was in a heavy mood. Everything she learned today was too shocking for her. She learned about Chu Zhu's growth, and also learned that he was now in an uncertain state of life or death. She had no idea where he was. If this information were released to the outside world, it would definitely shock the world. The Chu family had an ancestor who was an immortal. What an honor it is. Of course, Chu Yin knew that Nangong Chen could have concealed all this and not told her, but he still told her, which was enough to prove his trust in her. In this case, she can't let him down. Su Li had also regained her former coolness at this moment, standing there with skin as white as a 9-day ice plum, proudly beautiful. Chi Yao couldn't retreat yet. She had to make sure that Su Li would not know about these things before she could leave. During this period of time, Su Li's body was still under her control. Since that stone wall can absorb your soul, it must be something extraordinary. You can try to attack it and see if you can activate it. Su Li said, her beautiful eyes looking towards the stone wall. As an almighty being, she could tell at a glance that this stone wall was extraordinary and chose to remind Nangong Chen. After hearing this, Nangong Chen nodded with a gleam in his eyes. It did make sense. Soon, a ray of divine light burst out from Nangong Chen's fingertips and poured into the stone wall. There was a loud bang, and the next moment, the stone wall carved with countless ancient runes burst into several 7-colored divine lights, which was extraordinary and magical. Nangong Chen looked at Su Li with some praise. Awesome. He didn't expect that this stone wall was so mysterious. Chu Yin was also a little shocked. She didn't expect that the other party actually guessed it right. When Chi Yao saw Nangong Chen's eyes looking at her, ripples appeared in her heart. She couldn't help but think of the scene just now. For a moment, she felt uneasy and uncomfortable, as if she was surrounded by ants. However, she couldn't show it. Otherwise, if Nangong Chen found out something was wrong, she would be in trouble. Chi Yao thought to herself and suppressed the hot and fluttering heart. Tens of thousands of years have passed, and finally someone has triggered this taboo. I wonder if they are qualified to obtain the Xianxian sex inheritance. In a few days, this divine soul will dissipate. At this moment, faint voices were heard. The voices were not loud, but they echoed throughout the entire palace. It sounded like something said by an almighty being. As soon as the words fell, there was a tremor in the void. Nangong Chen and the others looked over and saw that at some point, a young figure slowly walked out from the center of the palace. He was wearing a dark yellow Taoist robe and had a slender body. When his eyes opened and closed, immortal energy burst out. His aura was extremely powerful, giving people a strong sense of oppression. Although he looks young, the sense of vicissitudes of life cannot be disguised. This person is none other than the one Nangong Chen had seen before. Chu Wanli. Boy, we meet again. Chu Wanli looked at Nangong Chen with a smile on his face. Nangong Chen was shocked. He hadn't expected that this would be the test of inheritance, and that Chu Wanli would come in person, and, judging from the other party's tone, he seemed to recognize him. Could it be? A terrifying thought suddenly appeared in Nangong Chen's mind, and his pupils suddenly shrank. He is. Chu Yin was a little shocked and asked. She didn't expect that Nangong Chen actually recognized such a strong man. However, it seemed that he had no ill intentions towards them, and the aura emanating from the strong man actually made him feel somewhat familiar. Su Li had guessed in her mind, but she pretended to be shocked. I am Chu Wanli, the last leader of Xianxian sect. Seeing their confusion, Chu Wanli spoke slowly. After he finished speaking, Chu Yin widened her eyes in disbelief. Chu Wanli? Is this actually her ancestor, or a wisp of soul transformed from her ancestor? After hearing this, Nangong Chen was not surprised, as if he had already expected it. After all, he had seen what happened in the first half of Chu Wanli's life. Now the cause and effect loop is clear. I didn't expect that in the end, he would come to fight against Chu Zhu. There was a bitterness on Nangong Chen's lips. If he was not mistaken, the other party's cultivation should be above that of a saint, and this was just the strength of a soul. He's still fighting a ghost. Chapter 234. Fight against the ancient monster. Chu Yin, the 102nd generation saintess of the Chu family, greets Chu ancestor. Chu Yin said a little excitedly. 102 generations? So that's a long time ago. After hearing this, Chu Wanli murmured, with a look of reminiscence on his face. He looked at the child who was somewhat related to him. His eyes and brows became more kind and appreciative. He could see that the Chu family had at least not declined, and there was still a genius with 9th grade qualifications. His eyes showed a kind look, and he said, Okay, kid, you're very good. When you get out, say hello to them for me. He was referring to her naturally Chu Yan's clansmen. Then, He paused, as if realizing something, and said with regret, "If time wasn't so tight, we, the grandparents, would have a good chat. But right now, there are more important things to do." Chu Wanli looked at Nangong Chen and said, "The last test of the Xianxian sect inheritance is me. Defeat me, and you can take the inheritance." After hearing this, Nangong Chen's expression became complicated, and he was about to say something. The opponent was a saint, and the most powerful demon in the Xianxian sect. How could he fight him? He was afraid that he would just go and give himself up. After all, the gap between the two was too huge. Chu Yan, who was standing by, also knew about this situation and was about to say a few words to help Nangong Chen. And in the next moment, that light voice sounded again. "I know what you're worried about. Don't worry. I will suppress you until I'm at the same level as you." Chu Wanli guessed what they were thinking and spoke out. The next moment, Chu Wanli's aura continued to drop until it reached the peak of the Great Power Realm, the same cultivation level as Nangong Chen. But even so, the immortal power is still very astonishing. This is the mark of becoming an immortal. Even if your cultivation level drops, it will still remain in your body. After hearing this, Nangong Chen's eyes burst with confidence, and his fighting spirit soared to the sky. In the same realm, he is absolutely invincible. After seeing this, Chu Wanli was also surprised, and said with some praise, "Yes, with such fighting spirit, you are qualified to be on par with the geniuses of the past. Your eyes are quite interesting." He looked at Nangong Chen's double pupils, and seemed to recall some terrifying existence, but he didn't say much. After a pause, he reminded, "In the long years before you, you have faced the Dragon Saint's son, the ancient freak, and even the invincible one who suppressed a generation of geniuses, but none of them were defeated by me. As for the reason, you should also know that I have become an immortal. Even if I retreat to the peak of the powerful realm, I'm still more than twice as powerful as ordinary people in this realm. Moreover, I am also a genius of that era. I hope you don't take it lightly, and let me eliminate you." After he finished speaking, Chu Wanli's eyes gradually became clear, as if he had returned to his youth. An invincible belief burst out, and even the heaven and earth were shaken. At this moment, he is no longer as confused as he was in his later years, but a genius who suppresses his generation. Chu Yan was a little shocked when these words came out. She had never thought that her ancestor would be so evil. Is this the peerless evildoer from ancient times? Chu Yan looked at Nangong Chen, with some worry in her beautiful eyes, wondering if the other party could defeat such an existence. She could sense that even if her ancestor was at the same level as her, if they fought, she would probably not be able to withstand a single blow. Xiao also looked at Nangong Chen solemnly. She had heard of the name Chu Wanli. He was her descendant, and a monster who had come from the Xiantian realm to kill people. As soon as he entered the ninth heaven, he showed his invincibility, which made the geniuses of the entire 3,000 Daozhou tremble in fear. Afterwards, he joined the Xianxian sect, the largest sect at that time, and became the direct disciple of Zhuangxianzi. As for the subsequent information, we don't know much about it. Monsters of this level can be considered the top ones in the 9 realms, even in the entire 9 heavens, and should not be underestimated. I don't know if Nangong Chen can defeat the opponent. Nangong Chen's pupils were blazing, his black hair was fluttering, and his white clothes were rustling. He also had the demeanor of a young king, and was no less impressive than Chu Wanli. Even the sense of invincibility is even better. Have you ever heard that people with double pupils have never been defeated since ancient times? Nangong Chen's brows lit up as he spoke calmly, his tone showing an unprecedented confidence and determination. After hearing this, Chu Wanli sighed a little, with an expression of admiration on his face. Well, a double pupil has been undefeated since ancient times. I never thought that in this era, a monster like you would appear. Then, he changed the subject, a fighting spirit rising up in him. Since that's the case, let's fight. Nangong Chen's eyes were focused. He could feel that this was the strongest monster he had ever encountered, no doubt about it. He would give it his all. The next moment, Chu Wanli used his power to move the stars here and came to a starry sky. He grinned. The palace won't allow us to mess around, but this place is perfect for us to show off our skills. That's exactly what I meant. Nangong Chen responded calmly. Boom! The battle between the ancient evildoers and the ones with double pupils begins. Chu Wanli took the first step, with a mortal light bursting out his eyes, and a terrifying aura rising from the 9 heavens. The next moment, a supreme immortal seal covered down, and the power it emitted shattered everything here. This was just a casual attack, but it unleashed a force that was no less powerful than that of a powerful being. Even if a powerful being from the God King realm was here, he would probably drink blood on the spot. Below, Chu Yan's face was pale. Just a wisp of energy released by the battle was enough for her to resist. Seeing this, Suli beside her also flicked her hand and sent a wisp of icy air to protect her. With the blessing of this icy light, Chu Yin suddenly felt a lot more relaxed. She was about to say thank you when she heard a hiss. Take a good look. It will be of great benefit to you. Qiao looked into the void, couldn't help but give her some pointers, and said softly. Chu Yin nodded and looked at the young man in white, her beautiful eyes showing some worry. Nangong Chen, can he defeat the ancestor? Even if a top genius like Wan Tianxing was here, she was sure that he would not be able to defeat the other party in a single move. Qiao's heart was also a little moved. If she was not mistaken, this could be the legendary heaven-flipping seal. This is a long-lost immortal skill. It is said that when it is cultivated to perfection, it can cover the heaven and earth and is comparable to the emperor level. She had also seen Fairy Xian perform before, but it seemed that her proficiency was not as good as this young man's. He is worthy of being the strongest evildoer in the history of Xianxian sect, and he is quite capable. Qiao thought to herself, her beautiful eyes gazing at the sky. Chapter 235 Qilin's Journey into the Sky. In the void, the overwhelming immortal light burst out from the immortal seal, wanting to kill everything in the world. Upon seeing this, Nangong Chen's double pupils emitted endless dim light, which seemed to show the collapse of heaven and earth. The next moment, a ray of light shot out from his eyes that pierced the sky. This gaze was too powerful, like divine power erupting from the underworld. Such pressure could tear space apart. Boom! The shocking gaze collided with the immortal seal, like a collision of two huge stars. The terrifying power that erupted was so great that all the ancient trees within 100 miles were shaken up. Even some of the ancient ferocious beasts living deep in this place were bleeding, and their bodies kept retreating. They looked shocked and looked into the distance, unable to believe what kind of existence was fighting. Soon, that gleam of light was so bright that it tore a hole in the supreme immortal seal. However, the light in his eyes did not diminish, but instead became even brighter and more terrifying, rushing straight towards Chu Wanli. Receive. Chu Wanli's expression changed, and he formed seals with his hands. A glazed golden fairy rope instantly shot out, trying to lock that gaze. This is the art of binding immortals, a skill that combines defending against enemies and restraining them. And it is also an immortal product. If it is in peak condition, even an immortal can besiege it. You can imagine how powerful it is. Qiao was also a little shocked when she saw this scene. She didn't expect that the other party had even learned this long-lost magic. Boom! The next moment, that ray of light was swallowed up by it and disappeared there. Similarly, after collecting, Chu Wanli's calm face changed slightly, as if he took a breath. Nangong Chen looked calm when he saw this. This glare was just an ordinary means of attack by a man with double pupils. It was worth it if it could make the other party pay a high price to deal with it. In the first round of the game between the two, Nangong Chen had a slight advantage. Before he could even catch his breath, a surge of power erupted again. Chu Wanli's eyes shone with golden light, and his body was surrounded by immortal light, just like a Daluo golden immortal, and the pressure he exuded was astonishing. Immortal light powder. A ray of divine light burst out from Chu Wanli's hand, and runes intertwined. The power contained in it was enough to flatten an entire country. If it were to erupt, even a semi-saint would perish here. This is one of the 4 magical powers of Xianxian sect. Chu Wanli has used this trick to defeat many monsters. Nangong Chen focused his eyes and naturally realized the extraordinariness of this move. His white clothes rustled, and the next moment, a ray of lightning burst out from his hand. Boom! The sky suddenly changed, and countless seas of thunder gathered in the sky, bursting with terrifying lightning. The sound of thunder was like an ancient god awakening. Nangong Chen stepped on the void. The lightning condensed in his hands became more and more dazzling. His black hair fluttered, and he was full of vigor, as if the master between heaven and earth was standing here. This move is called Shocking Thunder. It is the most powerful attack he has mastered in the Thunder Emperor's magic. He has never used it before, and it has only appeared in front of the world today. At this moment, if people from outside saw the power that erupted between the two of them, they would be extremely shocked. They would think that there were 2 quasi-saints fighting each other. There is no way. The 2 of them are too evil and cannot be measured by their cultivation. Cross-combat power is commonplace for them. Thunder Emperor's treasure technique? When Chu Wanli saw this strange sight, his pupils suddenly shrank. Apart from the legendary magic of the Thunder Emperor, who else in the world has such a thunder magic that can produce such a strange effect? But what shocked him was that hadn't the 10 evil treasures long since disappeared in the long river of time? Why did they suddenly reappear at this moment? Before he could think about it, another roar sounded, deafening and piercing the sky. In Nangong Chen's left hand, a green divine flame Qilin was condensing, and the breath it emitted was enough to destroy the world. At the same time, in half of the void, there was a colorful divine cloud shining, and a Qilin stood in the blue sky. Its eyes, like cold lightning, swept across the world, bringing great shock to people. Qilin steps on the blue sky. This is the profound meaning that Nangong Chen comprehended from the Qilin magic. The strange phenomenon that erupted from it is in no way inferior to the Thunder Emperor's magic. After seeing it, Chu Wanli was stunned. If he was not mistaken, this seemed to be the legendary Qilin magic. At this moment, his eyes were full of complexity when he looked at Nangong Chen. What kind of luck was this? He actually got 2 of the 10 long-lost treasures. Even in other eras, such a situation has never occurred. At most, it is an Emperor-level technique. The Emperor-level skills are the best among the best in the 3,000 days. No matter whether it is the immortal forces, the ancient Taoist tradition, or the immortal sect, they all regard the Emperor level as the highest martial arts and collect them as the core. As for the 10 great magic techniques or divine-level skills that are vaguely woven into the legends, they are all unparalleled magical powers from ancient times. Each one is derived from an almighty being and contains great magical powers. Compared with other skills, they are a level higher. Could it be that this kid also has some magical skills? Chu Wanli suddenly seemed to think of something and was shocked, and then he shook his head. How could this possibly exist? That's a divine technique, not something you can find everywhere. Of course, there was no time to think as the divine thunder and the blue unicorn rushed towards him. It seems that we can't let go of the water. Chu Wanli took a deep breath, covered his hand with one hand, and endless fairy light burst out from his hand. Boom! The wisps of immortal light burst out, and when the two collided, the white light was dazzling and blinding, filling the entire world. The 2 women below were speechless, holding their breath, staring at the scene intently, each with different thoughts in their minds. This is a battle between ancient monsters and modern monsters. Regardless of the outcome, it will be a duel that will benefit people endlessly. Of course, this is only useful to Chu Yan. For Qi Yao, although she was a little shocked, it was far from the point of making her dumbfounded. Is the winner going to be decided? Chu Yan lost her voice, her beautiful eyes filled with shock. She didn't expect that Nangong Chen could actually fight with the ancestor and not even be at a disadvantage. This really refreshed her worldview. You know, her ancestor was an unparalleled genius who had achieved enlightenment and become an immortal. Could it be that Nangong Chen's talent is even more terrifying than the ancestors? Qi Yao, who was standing by, shook her head after hearing this. She could see that the 2 still had some strength left, and it was far from the moment to decide the winner. However, Nangong Chen's talent really amazed Qi Yao and made her curious about which great master this evildoer's bloodline originated from. At this moment, the white light dissipated in the void, and 2 figures appeared. Chapter 236, Qilin Steps, the Despair of the Outside World. Chu Wanli's face was pale, with a trickle of blood oozing from the corner of his lips. He looked disheveled, but his eyes, like divine bells, burst out with a tremendous fighting spirit. He was extremely excited, even his immortal blood was boiling. After so many years, he finally met a decent opponent. If Nangong Chen was in their era, Chu Wanli couldn't imagine how happy he would be. Below, Chu Yin saw this scene. Her beautiful eyes narrowed, and her red lips opened slightly, as if she had seen a miracle. Hiss! Ancestor, he actually lost? You know, this is the second time they've clashed. Before she could react, a roar sounded from the sky, echoing all over the place, and even the earth and sky were shaking. Keep fighting, Chu Wanli roared. His body continued to heal, and there was a fairy spirit in the air. This is the immortal blood. As long as you are not dead, even if you turn into a drop of blood, you can be resurrected. On the other side, Nangong Chen had a calm expression. His double pupils were emitting azure divine light, and a healing power was rising from his body. At the same time, his spiritual sea was like a chaos, madly devouring the spiritual energy around it. This is the second magical power of the double pupil, divine healing. It can quickly restore itself. Not long after he reached his peak state, his whole body was covered with immortal light, like a banished immortal in the world. When Chu Wanli saw this scene, he secretly cursed the person as a pervert. He couldn't figure out why there were such terrifying eyes in the world. He has both extreme combat capabilities and terrifying recovery speed. Isn't this abnormal? At this moment, he inexplicably felt a pity for Nangong Chen, the genius of this life. Born in the same era, yet there was such a monster. However, even though he thought so, Chu Wanli did not hold back at all when he attacked. He stepped into the void, and immortal light filled the air. The aura on his body became stronger and stronger with each step he took. At this moment, Chu Wanli was like a true immortal, with great power and majestic appearance, standing tall in the sky. The pressure that erupted made the void tremble. This is the immortal step, one of the four great magical powers of the Shinxian sect. If it is fully displayed, even the strongest in the heavens can be killed. At this moment, Qi Yao below couldn't help but remind Nangong Chen, wanting him to interrupt. Chu Yin was still in the middle of the fight between the two of them. After hearing the sound, she quickly came to her senses. After seeing this, Nangong Chen raised his eyebrows with a hint of amusement. The immortal step? How does it compare to my Qilin step? The next moment, Nangong Chen stepped on the sky, his eyes looking arrogant, and took a step down. In an instant, a phantom of a Qilin condensed from the sky, and the mighty power it exuded changed the entire world. Roar! Accompanied by the Qilin's roar, Nangong Chen, dressed in white, looked arrogant like a young king. Every step he took created amazing fluctuations in the void. Such a strange phenomenon even directly overwhelmed the opponent. Under this power, Chu Wanli spat out a mouthful of blood. His steps became a little unsteady, and his eyes were full of horror as he looked at Nangong Chen. It's actually the Qilin step? The pure-blooded Qilin's supreme magic. Is the other party poking a hornet's nest? Chu Wanli then thought about the Qilin magic that the other party had mastered, and he was no longer surprised. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and his entire body burst out with a terrifying force, and he rushed directly towards the other party. He knew very well how terrifying the Qilin step would be after it was completed, and he had to interrupt the opponent. After seeing this, Nangong Chen sighed in his heart. Is this the combat experience of a true immortal? Compared to the other party, he is still slightly lacking in this aspect. Of course, he did not show any mercy. When he raised his hand, a golden energy and blood burst out, majestic and boundless, like a golden divine sea. Above that divine sea, there stands an ancient divine elephant. This terrifying power spread, the ground was shaking, and the void seemed to be shattered. You can imagine what a terrifying existence this is. After seeing this, Chu Wanli felt a little ashamed. Is this still a human being? He seemed to have an illusion that if the ancient divine elephant landed on it, it would crush the world. But even so, he did not stop. He clenched his fists, and a mighty fist light cut through the sky and rushed towards Nangong Chen. This fist light carries a wisp of immortal energy and is extremely powerful. Even the physical strength of an ancient ferocious beast would be reduced to ashes by this punch. But he didn't know that he was facing a man who was called a freak by Wan Tiansheng. The next moment, another fist-like light shot up into the sky and descended from the sky. The combined might of the Heavenly Emperor Fist and the Divine Elephant prison-suppressing power seemed to shatter the entire world. This is the final blow for the two, and also the decisive blow. The two fists collided, and a huge wave erupted from the center, creating a terrifying wave. Below, the two women were concentrating, their beautiful eyes never moving away for a moment. They all want to see who wins in the end. At the same time, outside the palace, it's the last day, and they haven't come out yet. Could something have happened? Lu Dezhu glanced at the sky and said in a low voice. After hearing this, the others also fell silent and worried. He hasn't come out for such a long time. He must have encountered something in this ancient, immortal ruins. Should we wait then? Let's wait a little longer. If they don't come out in half a day, we'll retreat first. They discussed it in a low voice and decided to wait for the last half day. After hearing this, Ximeng also looked at the door in a daze, with a hint of anticipation in her beautiful eyes. At this moment, in the outside world, it's been so long. Why haven't the Double Pupils and the others come out yet? It looks like the first round of Immortal Hidden is almost over. Yeah, could it be that they encountered some danger? Alas, 9 times out of 10, there's nothing we can do about it. Since ancient times, opportunities have always coexisted with danger. Everyone looked at the projection, but the familiar figure had not appeared yet, and they sighed for a moment. They never knew whether they would finally come out, but the only thing they knew for sure was that if they exceeded the time limit of this first round, they would probably be trapped in the immortal treasure for the rest of their lives. Since ancient times, the exploration of ruins has always taken a huge amount of time, and it has never been heard that anyone can get out of the ruins in just a few days. What a shame. What a shame. Are we, the proud geniuses of the human race, going to be trapped there forever? Damn it. If the person with double pupils had shown his invincibility before and entered the second round, he would have been able to turn the tide and defeat those geniuses who looked down on us humans. Could it be that the evildoers of our human race are destined to die young? Why is heaven so unfair? For a moment, some people looked angry, while others looked powerless. In the past few days, they have seen from Li Qixin's perspective that many monsters in other domains have begun to exert their strength, while the monsters in their Xiantian domain are trapped in the ancient immortal ruins. This made them feel deeply desperate, even more desperate than when they met Wan Tianchen before. After all, they had just seen hope, but now this glimmer of hope had disappeared. In the void, some of the powerful ones also showed regret on their faces, and some looked angry. If I had known earlier, I shouldn't have entered this ancient immortal ruins. Now, for a little opportunity, I want to die there. You, a person with double pupils, are so foolish. What a pity. The one with double pupils, the Ice Phoenix Goddess, and the Chu family Saintess, no matter who they are the most stunning among this generation's geniuses. Especially the one with double pupils. If nothing unexpected happens, he will definitely be in the top 10 in the second round. Chapter 237 The Great Era is coming. Chu Wanli is defeated. Beside a quiet and secluded lake, Li Songhai casually caught a giant demon king with deep eyes and expressionless face and put it into the small fish basket. Then he looked at the projection in the void, his eyes finally showing some meaning, and said, "It's the last day, and they haven't come out yet? It seems that there's a great opportunity." Bai Wu Dao, who was fishing at the side, was also fishing calmly. After hearing the words, he raised his brows slightly and looked into the endless space, with some thoughts swirling in his eyes. Is the great world coming? Just a few years ago, he used an ancient immortal artifact to speculate that above the destiny of the human race, a blood-colored evil sword was condensing, and the sword energy was so sharp that it seemed to cut off the destiny of the human race. At that time, he was extremely shocked and could not believe that there would be such a disaster in the future of the human race. You know, the human race has always produced countless amazing strong people, geniuses, and prosperity. Even above the 9 heavens, there are supreme beings of the human race stationed there. But from this little piece of secret, one could actually infer that someone wanted to destroy the destiny of the human race. Until today, this evil sword hanging high above the destiny of the human race seems to have finally condensed and completed at some point. Bai Wu Dao didn't know what had happened, but the only thing he knew was that this matter must be closely related to the matter of the immortal treasure. In other words, someone pushed the gears of fate, accelerating the formation of this evil sword. And within the immortal treasure are all the geniuses of this generation. And among the geniuses of this generation, is there anyone who can promote the condensation of this evil sword? Bai Wu Dao frowned. This was not a good thing for them. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look at the portal in the projection with a deep gaze. Tianyuan Divine Dynasty. Seeing that Nangong Chen and Su Li had not come out for such a long time, everyone in the palace was worried and looked uneasy. However, even so, no one dared to say a single unlucky word. They all felt that the crown prince and the crown princess were blessed with good fortune and would not encounter any danger. Nangong Zhan sat on the dragon throne. He didn't know when the exquisite brocade bag had appeared in his hand. He stared at the projection in the void, feeling very anxious. If Nangong Chen and the others don't come out in half a day, he will use this method and use the trump card left by the child's mother. He only has this one son. If he is really locked up in this godforsaken immortal treasury for the rest of his life, he will have nowhere to cry. Rookin, you should understand me. If you were here right now, you would definitely be as anxious as I am. Nangong Chen murmured, his eyes a little dazed. Su Ming below was also extremely nervous. It was because his daughter had also followed him into this ancient immortal ruins. He had finally given birth to a precious daughter, but if she were really trapped in this immortal treasure house, he wouldn't know how to face the ancestors of the Su family. In the corner, Wang Yuxuan, Zhou Waner, Lu Ruyan, and Su Yao were staring at the projection with their beautiful eyes, their faces filled with anxiety. You guys tell me, will I never see my sister and brother-in-law again? Su Yao's eyes were red, and she spoke with a hint of tears. There was only one day left, and they still hadn't come out. Even though she knew nothing, she could vaguely sense that something was wrong. After hearing this, the 3 girls exchanged glances, their beautiful eyes filled with helplessness. There was nothing they could do. All the deception they had endured over the past few days was ultimately not as real as this projected scene. Wang Yuxuan's heart was also trembling. She didn't want her master to die there more than anyone else. She forced a smile and touched Su Yao's head. Don't worry, Yao Yao. Your brother-in-law is a great hero. He can create miracles at any time. He will definitely come out and take your sister with him. Both of them will be safe. After hearing her comfort, Su Yao stopped sobbing, her smart eyes with a few tears. Really? Really? We are your sister's good friends. How could we lie to you? Wang Yuxuan spoke with a firm look in her beautiful eyes. Dressed in a white dress, Lu Ruyan, with a cold and serene countenance, reminisced as she consoled him. When I was at the outskirts of the 9 Heaven secret realm and saw your brother-in-law enter the core, I was just as worried as you are. I couldn't believe it. But after we got out, your brother-in-law was safe and sound. He even killed the legendary Blood Demon King at the core. Only then did I realize that your brother-in-law is no ordinary genius and cannot be viewed with the same eyes as ordinary people. Others may not be able to do it, but he seems to be able to accomplish anything. Lu Rian was tall, and as she spoke, her beautiful eyes shone with a unique brilliance, making her look like an intellectual beauty, less aloof than before. This is also the first time Su Yao has seen this fairy sister talk so much. Wow, it turns out my brother-in-law is so awesome. Su Yao waved her little pink fist with a gleam in her eyes. Zhou Wan'er said nothing. Her face was delicate, and she looked very noble in a black dress. She took a sip of tea, looked at Su Yao with her dark eyes, and raised the corners of her mouth. How could a man who looked at his own body die so quickly? Of course, if Nangong Chen really died, she would commit suicide without hesitation to accompany him. To her, Nangong Chen was a light in the darkness, illuminating her life. Zhou Wan'er thought to herself, her face very calm. You lost. As the mighty fist light dissipated, a cold voice came from it. In the void, Nangong Chen, dressed in white, looked at Chu Wanli, who was only 1 foot away from being killed, and spoke. Chu Wanli's pupils shrank slightly, and after he came to his senses, a bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. There's no way. There's really no way. I'm outmatched in every way. I really don't know how this freak was born in the Xiantian domain. The two women below opened their beautiful eyes wide after seeing this scene, somewhat unable to believe it. Nangong Chen won. Chu Yin was a little speechless. She had never thought that Nangong Chen could really do it and defeat the ancestor. Chi Yao was also a little surprised. Her beautiful eyes flickered and the corners of her mouth raised slightly. She couldn't help but feel happy for Nangong Chen. This kid is quite capable, able to beat Chu Wanli to his knees. Even those immortal monsters probably can't do this. Moreover, it seems that this kid still has some cards up his sleeve. Yes, the young are indeed formidable, Chu Wanli said with some sigh, and with a wave of his hand, the injuries on his body were wiped away and the powerful aura from before was restored. At the same level, he is indeed no match for Nangong Chen. This is a fact. Chapter 238, I'm already married. Nangong Chen retracted his fist, cupped his hands, and then said seriously, Senior, you are very strong. So far, you are the one who has fought with me for the longest time. The one you fought with the longest? After hearing this, Chu Wanli's mouth twitched and black lines appeared on his forehead. This was the first time since ancient times that he had received such an evaluation, and it came from a young man. It was unclear whether it was a compliment or a humiliation to him, but judging from the boy's expression, he should be inclined to the former. After hearing this, Chi Yao and the others below also covered their mouths to hide their laughter, with a smile in their beautiful eyes. Chu Wanli did not think too much about it. The soul he had set up back then had now been defeated by someone, which meant that the soul would soon dissipate. In that case, he decided to make a long story short and make arrangements for his future affairs. I don't have much time left. Before long, this spirit will dissipate. Chu Wanli took a deep breath and spoke, then beckoned Chu Yin to come over. Chu Yin was a little dazed, and the next moment, the whole person was in the void. Meet the ancestor. Chu Yin looked at the person in front of him and said respectfully. At the same time, he was a little shocked. He didn't expect that the ancestor had such a method. No need to salute. Chu Wanli was very satisfied when he saw his descendants for countless generations and nodded. Then he looked at Nangong Chen, feeling a little sad. Why isn't this guy from our Chu family? You came in this time, probably for this Chu Zuling, right? Chu Wanli looked at Chu Yin and said softly. Chu Yin nodded nervously. The only task given to her by the family was to find Chu Zuling. Of course, she also knew that the Chu Zhu order contained not only the things that Chu Zhu had left for their Chu family, but also the inheritance of the immortals. Therefore, over the past tens of thousands of years, whenever the Chu family's immortal treasure was opened, they would ask other geniuses to help find this item. But unfortunately, no one could find it, let alone find it, and whether they could get it was another matter. This also led to the fact that, after 10,000 years, there was not even a single piece of information about Chu Zuling. I was not thoughtful enough at the time, Chu Zuling, to bind that item to my soul. In other words, only those who defeated me could obtain it. I didn't expect that after so much time, not a single Chu family prodigy had set foot here. As for the other geniuses, they're not from the Xiantian territory either. I'm not confident in handing them over to them, fearing they may have ulterior motives. This also caused the things that Chu Zuling originally left for your Chu family to remain here for a long time. Chu Wanli said with some disappointment. He really didn't expect that after him, in the Chu family for tens of thousands of years, no one more talented than him would appear. After hearing this, Chu Yin lowered her head and blushed a little. She naturally knew what the ancestor meant. What I meant was that I thought the appearance of a genius like me in that era was just the beginning of the Chu family, but I didn't expect it to be the peak of the Chu family. From ancient times to the present, she has never heard of anyone in the Chu family who has talent comparable to the ancestor. Even after the ancestor, each generation is worse than the previous one. It's no wonder that the ancestor is disappointed. After hearing this, Nangong Chen, who was standing by, smiled. It turned out that there was such a past. But you're lucky to have come here with this kid. I originally planned that my soul would dissipate and the Chu Zhu Ling would disintegrate into the world. After all, it would be bad if the things on it were to be obtained by thieves. Chu Wanli seemed to have thought of something and added. After hearing this, Chu Yin nodded heavily, looking at Nangong Chen with complicated eyes. If Nangong Chen had not been here today, even if she sensed the call from the portal, she would not be able to come in here, and she would not be able to pass the test set by the ancestor. In fact, it is reasonable to say that if Nangong Chen wants this thing, she has no reason to refuse. Chu Wanli seemed to have thought of this as well. With a smile on his face, he said to Nangong Chen, "The things left behind on the Chu Zuling will be of immense benefit to you. It is the inheritance of a true immortal, but there is a restriction. Only direct descendants of the Chu family can open it. How about it, boy? Why don't you marry the saint of my clan? Then, the Chu Zhu Ling will be yours." When these words came out, the two were a little shocked. They didn't expect Chu Zhu to say such a thing. Chu Yan's pretty face turned red all of a sudden. She lowered her head slightly, feeling a little uneasy. Her father also said that whoever could find Chu Zuling would be her husband. At that time, she did not take it too seriously, thinking that it was impossible to find something that had not been found for tens of thousands of years easily. And now, not only has it been found, but it was also found by Nangong Chen. You have to know that the other party is married, so she doesn't have to share a husband with other women. Even Chu Yin herself did not realize that in her subconscious, she had already accepted Nangong Chen as her husband. A cold snort was heard from below. This person was none other than Qi Yao. At this moment, her brows were frosty, and she crossed her arms coldly, looking very unhappy. It's just the inheritance of a true immortal, a piece of broken stuff that even dogs don't want, yet you dare to use it to seduce Nangong Chen. She didn't know why she was so angry after hearing it. She thought about it again and blamed it all on Su Li. I am now playing the role of Su Li. If Su Li knew that Nangong Chen was tempted like this, she would definitely be angry. That's right. Qi Yao found a reason for herself with peace of mind, and became more determined to play the role of Su Li well. Forget it. I'm already married, and my love for her is as strong as gold. This Chu Zhu Ling belongs to the Chu family, and I have no other thoughts. I'll just give it to Saint Chu. Nangong Chen refused without hesitation, his words full of affection. He's willing to sacrifice his life to open a harem in front of Su Li. After hearing this, Qi Yao below finally breathed a sigh of relief. Her beautiful eyes were filled with satisfaction as she glanced at Nangong Chen. She didn't know why she was happy. Maybe if Su Li was here, she would also be happy after hearing this answer. Yes, that's right. At this moment I am Su Li. Qi Yao hypnotized herself and continued to play the role of Su Li. On the other side, although Chu Yin had already prepared herself mentally, the moment she actually heard it, her beautiful eyes couldn't help but dim, and even her heart ached slightly. What a shame. Since you're already married, I won't delay you. Chu Wanli showed regret, but was not particularly disappointed. After all, this kind of thing depends on the other party's wishes. He glanced at Su Li and saw that the other party seemed to be superior to Chu Yin in both talent and appearance. It seemed that there was a reason why his descendants could not compete. It seems that the Chu family is destined to have no chance of tying up such a monster. Chapter 239, Xianxian Sect Inheritance. Thanks to Zhou Sanchuan for the gift. As for the Xianxian Sect Inheritance, Chu Wanli paused for a moment, and then a ray of fairy light appeared and took Nangong Chen to another place. Nangong Chen opened his eyes, and his pupils shrank when he saw the scene in front of him. This is both a vibrant garden and a lifeless cemetery. In the sea of flowers, the gorgeous flowers sway in the wind, and the ancient tombstones are very conspicuous among them. He was too familiar with it. Throughout the long history, he had seen Chu Wanli come here countless times alone, with tears in his eyes, carving for the dead and blessing the living. After Chu Wanli came here, the corners of his mouth rose slightly, with a hint of nostalgia in his eyes, as if he had met an old friend after a long time. He walked forward, picked up the rusty and mottled scythe on the gate railing, and cleared some weeds as usual, muttering to himself. "Brother Jiang, I didn't bring your favorite peach blossom almond tea this time. You won't blame me, will you? Ha ha. Even if you want to blame me, there's nothing I can do. Over the past 10,000 years, I've already drunk all the peach blossom almond tea you brewed. It's ironic, but I never thought I'd become so addicted to alcohol. I still remember when senior brother Jiang secretly let me taste a sip of peach blossom altar. I was so spicy that my face turned red, and I swore I'd never drink again in my life. But it really proves what senior brother said. Wine in the heart of sorrow turns into tears of longing. But don't worry, from today on, I will come to accompany you. Then we can drink and chant together. After he finished speaking, Chu Wanli's eyes sparkled with tears. He knelt down respectfully and walked towards the next tombstone. Senior Sister Bai, when I first joined the sect, you were the best to me. You took care of me in every way, just like my own sister. You made me feel the warmth of the sect. Nangong Chen, who was standing aside, seemed to be a passerby, watching quietly without saying a word. After an unknown amount of time, Chu Wanli stood up and walked toward the tombstone in the center. On the tombstone was clearly engraved the tomb of the immortal Xian. Master, I am unfilial and ashamed of you for not following your last wish and restoring the glory of Xianxian's sect. Chu Wanli spoke with a guilty look on his face. Over the years, the person he was most afraid to face was Xian Xinzi. Then, as if he had thought of something, his eyes lit up. However, I have found hope for our Xianxian sect. There is a young man whose talent is even more extraordinary than mine. If he can revive our Xianxian sect, we will definitely reach the pinnacle in the future. But our history, our glory, will never be erased. Having said that, he looked at Nangong Chen with some passion, as if he was looking at a piece of precious jade. After hearing this, Nangong Chen's face was filled with complex emotions. Even in his heart, he was unsure whether he should take on this heavy responsibility. Reviving a sect is a bit time-consuming for him. Besides, instead of spending that time on cultivating the Tianyuan divine dynasty. Besides, with his strength, it is a bit exaggerated for him to become the leader of the Xianxian sect. On the other side, Chu Wanli seemed to have already guessed what the other party was thinking, and a faint light flashed in his eyes. Being able to cultivate such a monstrous force must be very powerful. Moreover, the bloodline of this child is not simple either. He must have had a great figure in his ancestors. However, the inheritance of their Xianxian sect is not simple. He slowly opened his mouth and said softly, "Boy, you don't know the status of Xianxian sect in the 3,000 Dao states at that time. It was really at its peak. Even some ancient great sects and top Taoist schools had to be respectful when they saw us. The reason for this is not because we are so powerful, but because we in Xianxian sect are young and talented enough. Many disciples from various forces in the Nine Heavens have practiced in Xianxian sect before. For Jiuqian, the role of Zhuangxiamen is more like a place to cultivate geniuses and a place to connect with monsters from all walks of life. With your talent and aptitude, if you inherit the Xianxian sect and become its leader, I'm afraid no evildoer in the world would doubt you." After hearing this, Nangong Chen's face suddenly showed enlightenment. Generally speaking, this Zhuangxiamen is more like an academy, similar to his Tianyuan Academy, but it's a version of the 3,000 Daozhou. Don't rush to refuse. You might as well take a look at the inheritance we left behind. Chu Wanli spoke with some deep meaning. The next moment, thousands of martial arts techniques were floating in the void. These were techniques above the saint level. Most of them had reached the immortal level, and there were even a few emperor-level techniques. Unfortunately, there was not a single god-level technique. Nangong Chen naturally recognized these skills from what he learned from Hong Tian's memory. Is this the inheritance of a top-level Taoist sect? After seeing this, Nangong Chen's expression changed slightly, and he swallowed secretly. If I could obtain these, how powerful would my Tianyuan divine dynasty become? Then Chu Wanli waved his hand again, and rays of divine light appeared, and magical weapons all appeared in the air. Among them, there are some magical spears that look like black dragons, broadswords that burst with lightning, and long swords that gleam with golden light. If these weapons were placed in the outside world, they would definitely cause a bloody storm. Now, they're all in the hands of one person, Chu Wanli. There are thousands of saint weapons, hundreds of immortal weapons, and 10 emperor weapons. These are the foundation of Xianxian sect. Chu Wanli looked at his expression and said with some pride. Nangong Chen was stunned for a moment when he saw so many magic weapons. At this moment, he realized what true foundation was. You know, in the outside world, Tianbao Pavilion has 10 holy weapons, which is already famous throughout the world and envied by countless people. And Lu Dazhu was able to enter the immortal treasure house because of Tianbao Pavilion. And now, in front of him are thousands of saints' weapons. This is enough to sell 100 Tianbao Pavilions. Nangong Chen was a little shocked, but he calmed down. After all, he was a man with a magical weapon. Of course, this also shows how precious each artifact is. Even the Xianxian sect, which is so wealthy and has so many immortal and imperial artifacts, still does not have a single artifact. That's about it. If Chu Wanli knew Nangong Chen's idea, he would definitely vomit blood. After all, that was a divine weapon. Even the old monsters in the upper realm were scrambling to get it. How could it possibly be their turn? What's more, if they had, they would have used it long ago. Would they still stay here? Basically, what remains here are almost all the remaining magic weapons. There are even some elixirs and precious medicines within that inheritance. If you accept them, they will all be yours. If you don't want it, then it would be such a pity. You and I will have to destroy it in this world together. Seeing Nangong Chen silent, Chu Wanli pretended to be a little regretful and said, Chapter 240 Giving Too Much. Who would have thought that the next moment, a voice rang out. It is our duty to restore the glory of Xiantian's sect. Nangong Chen said with a serious expression. There is no way. The offer is too much. There is no way to refuse. After hearing this, Chu Wanli felt somewhat satisfied and nodded. He knew that no one could resist these temptations. Yes, I was right about you. You are truly a good man of our Xiantian territory. From now on, you will be the third-generation leader of Xiantian sect. Chu Wanli was a little excited and finally tied Nangong Chen onto the pirate ship. Then, he handed a token belonging to the sect leader to Nangong Chen. This is the sect master's order. It will be your status symbol from now on. Chu Wanli spoke, as if he was making arrangements for his funeral. On the other side, Nangong Chen took the token that was as delicate as jade and put a drop of blood on his fingertips. In an instant, a connection between souls appeared in his mind. Nangong Chen's expression became complicated upon seeing this. From now on, he would truly shoulder the heavy responsibility of Xiantian sect. And this sect leader's robe, after wearing it, can withstand 3 true immortal attacks. Chu Wanli took out another exquisite white robe, his face showing some reluctance, but he still handed it to Nangong Chen. After receiving it, Nangong Chen was surprised. This sect leader's robe could actually block 3 attacks from true immortals. What a great thing. In other words, he now has 3 death-proof talismans on him. There is one more thing. This thing is the supreme inheritance of our Xiantian sect. This is also the reason why our Xiantian sect can stand firm in the entire 3,000 Dao states. This is the Linglong Tower, Chu Wanli said in a mysterious tone, his eyes extremely deep. As soon as he finished speaking, a giant tower reaching into the sky suddenly stopped in midair with a loud bang. It is unknown how tall this giant tower is. From a distance, one can see that the top of the tower has pierced the clouds, looking majestic and magnificent. The tower body is even more mysterious, with thunder entwined, dragons and phoenixes intertwined, and the sound of the great way coming out. It stands there, like a divine pillar reaching the sky. Nangong Chen looked at the giant tower in front of him, a little stunned, with a confused look in his eyes. Where did this thing come from? The Linglong Tower is something your master obtained outside the domain. When Chu Wanli said this, a hint of pride appeared on the corner of his mouth. Who in the world doesn't know Linglong Tower? In short, for you geniuses, Linglong Tower is the best place to hone your skills. Chu Wanli was a little dry-mouthed as he spoke, and told Nangong Chen everything. After hearing this, Nangong Chen was shocked. He didn't expect it to be like this. According to Chu Wanli, this exquisite tower is extraordinary and mysterious. Inside, it is the battlefield of the heavens, with projections of countless geniuses, such as some ancient monsters and some figures of the level of sons of God and saints throughout history. Anyone with extraordinary talent can leave their name on it and turn into a projection incarnation for the world's geniuses to challenge. Those who successfully complete the challenge will also receive corresponding opportunity rewards. It is said that someone once obtained a seed of the world tree. The most incredible thing is the Linglong Tower's no-injury mechanism. In other words, you don't need to enter with your physical body, you only need to enter with your soul to participate in the battle. Everything is the same as usual in the outside world, with no difference at all. If you die in the challenge, you could be resurrected directly without any loss at all. This is why so many talented and charismatic people yearn to join Xiantian sect. Just by giving these conditions, it will surely become a place that countless young talents yearn for. Of course, there is a prerequisite for entering the Linglong Tower. That is, you must first become a disciple of the Xiantian sect, or pay a high price to obtain the qualification. Nice one. Nangong Chen came back to his senses and saw the small tower in his palm with a fiery look in his eyes. This is definitely a good thing. If he goes to the 3,000 Dao provinces in the future, he will definitely slaughter those Tianjiao. Then his Tianyuan spiritual tablet will have no shortage of immortal crystals. Well, how to use these inherited resources in the Linglong Tower is up to you. I hope you won't let me down, Chu Wanli said slowly, and handed over the shrunken Linglong Tower and the ring to Nangong Chen. Then, his figure suddenly became unstable and vaguely ethereal. He looked down at his body and muttered, Is it time? Then, Chu Wanli's eyes were as bright as lights, and he looked straight at Nangong Chen. The hope of Shinxian sect is now in your hands. In the end, he did not ask Nangong Chen to swear an oath to heaven. The reason he did not do so was that he believed in Nangong Chen and believed that his vision would not be wrong. Seeing him like this, Nangong Chen realized something. His face changed slightly, and he seemed to want to say something, but he didn't say it and instead let out a long sigh. Don't worry, he nodded slightly, his tone filled with unparalleled confidence. Nangong Chen has absolute confidence that under his leadership, Zhuangxiamen will return to its peak and regain its glory. After hearing this, Chu Wanli was very satisfied. Then he raised his eyebrows slightly, and a hint of curiosity appeared on his young face. What do you want to ask? I might as well tell you before I leave. He naturally noticed the boy's hesitant look. Are you still alive? Nangong Chen was silent for a long time before he spoke. The other party referred to here is naturally Chu Wanli, who entered the Stargate. After hearing this, Chu Wanli's eyes were filled with loneliness. It was unknown what he was thinking. He then chuckled softly with a hint of bitterness and helplessness. If I were still alive, would I still need you to revitalize the sect? He spoke the most tragic truth in the lightest tone. How could he still be alive? 1,000 years ago, he sensed that his main body was dead, and the reason he was still alive was just a remnant of his soul. In other words, as long as he dies today, there will be no Chu Wanli in the world anymore. Nangong Chen was stunned. He had never thought that a true immortal would perish after entering the Stargate. That's the immortal in the legend. What kind of monster is outside the portal? For a moment, Nangong Chen felt heavy-hearted, as if layers of black fog were hovering above his head, lingering for a long time. Boy, do you think I'm stupid? I've already reached the level of a true immortal and have a bright future ahead of me, yet I still recklessly stepped into that Stargate. Chu Wanli said with some sigh. The young man's eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life that came from having seen the reincarnation of the world. Juniors have no right to comment on the actions of their elders. The decisions they make must have their reasons behind them. Nangong Chen shook his head, dressed in a white robe as white as snow. His eyes were deep like the stars in the sky. For him, without having experienced these things, how can he easily judge other people's lives? How can he so easily make conclusions about others? Chapter 241, The Last Tombstone. Chu Wanli was a little surprised. He didn't expect Nangong Chen to answer like this. It seems that this kid's character and way of dealing with things are even better than I thought. Chu Wanli secretly praised himself, and then slowly said, whether it is right or wrong, these things will be left to time to see, and what I have done is naturally clear in my conscience. My brothers and master all died there, slaughtered by those monsters. As the last of that generation, I naturally cannot live in vain. No matter what the cost, I must make those monsters shed a layer of skin and avenge them. Chu Wanli's eyes were filled with rage, and his young face was filled with murderous intent. He paused and looked at Nangong Chen. If it were you, and all your loved ones died at the hands of those monsters, what would you choose? After hearing this, Nangong Chen said without hesitation, I won't let this happen. If anyone comes to kill us, I will kill them alone and scare them away. If those monsters outside the Stargate dare to invade us in the future, I will wipe them out. His eyes were calm, with overwhelming confidence, as if he was telling a trivial matter. Chu Wanli was stunned. His eyes widened as if he had heard something incredible. What kind of self-confidence and arrogance does he have to dare to say those words about annihilating those monsters? In him, Chu Wanli's long-dead heart seemed to have a ray of hope. Okay, you're a real man. At this moment, Chu Wanli raised his thumb and no longer called him a junior, but truly regarded him as a man. Chu Wanli's body became increasingly ethereal and was about to dissipate. He smiled calmly, and then whispered, Boy, can I ask a favor of you? What is it? Nangong Chen was puzzled, but as long as it was something he could do, he would definitely help. Not only because he had been protecting the human race for so long, but also because of Chu Wanli's trust in him. If you have the energy to do so in the future, please take care of my descendants for me. Chu Wanli spoke, with a hint of pleading in his eyes. Chu Yan? After hearing this, Nangong Chen suddenly realized who the other party was talking about. Then, Nangong Chen nodded slightly. Chu Yan had shared hardships with him. If she had any spare energy, he would naturally help her without Chu Wanli asking. Chu Wanli smiled after seeing this. He could tell that his granddaughter was interested in Nangong Chen. It was a pity that the flower was in love, but the water was not. After explaining the last thing, Chu Wanli turned around and looked at the tombstones, his body gradually disappearing. Is this what death feels like? He felt his consciousness was gradually receding. In a trance, he seemed to see his master and others not far away, as if they were smiling and waving at him. It turns out that master didn't blame himself. Chu Wanli had a smile on his face, and with a wisp of breeze, he completely disappeared from the world. Not long after, another tombstone appeared in the bright flower garden. The 3,000 disciples of Xianxian sect were finally reunited at this moment. Chu Wanli's tomb. Nangong Chen looked at the tombstone in front of him, took back Zixiao, and bowed sincerely. From now on, he'll be the only one in Xianxian sect. In the palace, two stunningly beautiful women were staring blankly into the void, as if waiting for someone to appear. After a long time, a figure in white suddenly appeared before them. Chu Yan's eyes trembled when she saw it. Nangong Chen came out alone, which meant that her ancestor might have. Did you get it? Qiao asked, her beautiful eyes filled with curiosity. What she asked about was naturally the inheritance of Xianxian sect. Although she looked down upon Chu Wanli's inheritance, the fact that Xianxian sect was the largest sect in the 3,000 Dao states meant that it had something real. Nangong Chen nodded, his expression calm, with a hint of gloom in his eyes, and handed a token as crystal clear as jade to Chu Yan. This thing is Chu Zuling. When Chu Yan saw it, her pupils shrank, and she took it with a complicated expression. I didn't expect that in the end, it would be Nangong Chen who got the Chu Zuling. You know, the Chu family had previously announced that whoever could obtain the Chu Zuling would become the son-in-law of the Chu family. That is, her husband. Now that has been acquired by Nangong Chen, doesn't that mean? Chu Yan was a little dazed, and then a hint of gloom came over him. For others, this was indeed a huge temptation, but for him, he might not care. Nangong Chen naturally hadn't thought of this. He looked at Su Li and asked, "How long have I been in there?" "Long time." Qiao thought for a moment and spoke. After hearing this, Nangong Chen's eyes flashed. "Half a day. That means there's only about half a day left until the first round of assessments is over. Half a day is still enough time. Now, his 9 sky star array covers at least half of the mountain range. As long as it explodes, the score obtained will reach an astonishing level, but he doesn't know how much it is. Anyway, it is enough for him and Su Li to enter the second round." Thinking that everything went smoothly, Nangong Chen felt relieved. "It's time to leave here." Nangong Chen spoke. After hearing this, the two women nodded. There was only half a day left. If they didn't go out, they would be trapped here for the rest of their lives. Afterwards, Nangong Chen restored everything in the palace to its original state, even erasing the traces of battle. After doing all this, he came to the original formation, and in a flash, the formation in front of him was activated. With a burst of light, the figures of the 3 people also disappeared here. At this moment in the cave, in addition to Wang Teng and his group, Li Qixin and his group also arrived here half a day ago. "Hiss, are you saying that the giant tribe was wiped out by Nangong Chen alone?" Jiang Che was a little bit incredulous, and Lu Wuxin beside him also widened his eyes. "Yes, we saw it with our own eyes. How could it be fake?" Lu Dazhu said without any hesitation. Xiongde, who was standing by, chuckled and said that after he found out that he was not dead that day, he asked them the reason. Only then did he learn that those powerful giants were all killed by Nangong Chen alone. When he found out, his mouth was so big that it could fit stones. Now that he saw that someone was as shocked as he was naturally happy. Li Qixin and others were also somewhat shocked. Although they had anticipated this situation, they were still inexplicably shocked when they actually heard it. That was Wan Tiansheng, yet he was hung up and beaten by Nangong Chen without any ability to fight back. Chapter 242. Li Qixin and others were shocked. He was really killed by him. Moreover, from what they said, even the flesh body that Wan Tiansheng was so proud of was shattered by the double pupil person. Others don't know what the concept is, but doesn't Li Qixin know it? Wan Tiansheng is simply a walking human-shaped beast, and his physical strength is even comparable to that of ancient beasts. In such a situation, if it were him, he would have played to his strengths and avoided his weaknesses to avoid physical confrontation with him. But Nangong Chen directly confronted him head-on with his physical body and was not at all weak. Just how far has his physical body reached? Is he a true descendant of the dragon? Li Qixin was somewhat bewildered. This was the first time he had misjudged someone. He had not expected that brother Nangong, who had left on his own that day, was so powerful. Li Muxiu was also shocked. He knew better than anyone how terrifying Nangong Chen's eyes were, but he had never imagined that his body was so strong. So, this was the reason why the other party was so indifferent that day. Li Muxiu suddenly thought of that day when Nangong Chen was dressed in white. Even though he left alone, his calmness and unparalleled confidence definitely came from the heart. Jiang Che and the others were a little skeptical at first, but when they heard Wang Teng and the others speak and saw their fervent admiration, they knew that this couldn't be more true. At this moment, they were all silent. Before they came, they saw Nangong Chen replaced Wan Tianxing's ranking, and they thought that it was Saint Chu and the others who killed him together. But now we hear that even though Saint Chu fired a shot with all her strength, it couldn't even penetrate the opponent's skin, let alone be of any help. And the arrival of the man with double pupils changed the situation of the battle. One person wiped out the wild territory. What kind of terrifying power is this? At this moment, everyone in the outside world was amazed when they saw this scene. You know, that day when the man with double pupils destroyed the giant clan, they were shocked. Now, when they saw the overlord, they had the same expression, and they couldn't help but feel much more relieved. I am scared by people with double pupils, and I don't allow you not to be scared. Thinking of this, the onlookers, whether independent cultivators or disciples of the sect, all had smiles in their eyes. It turns out that these geniuses would be just as surprised as them. Comfortable, comfortable. That's awesome. It turns out the power of a person with double pupils is so great that even the number one on the heavenly ranking was frightened. Ha ha ha. Everyone laughed. After all, it was fun to see the shocked expressions of these geniuses. Inside the immortal treasure house, Jiang Che and the others came back to their senses with complicated expressions. It seems that the other party really didn't look down on them that day. No wonder they dared to mock the geniuses of all domains. If they had this ability, they would probably be even more arrogant than those with double pupils. In comparison, those with double pupils are still too conservative. Thinking of this, some people were curious. Why did Yi Guqing act so arrogantly that day? After the double-pupiled person arrived at the immortal treasure, he did not kill the other party. Logically speaking, if he broke away from Du Hai's protection and took action from the immortal treasure, wouldn't it be easy for him to kill Yi Guqing with his strength? On the contrary, Yi Guqing was killed by Wen Shun and Wen Zhe in the end. Is there something strange about this? And that day in the sea crossing, the pupil's reaction to Yi Guqing was as if he were looking at a dead person. Suddenly, a terrifying thought emerged in their minds. The man with double pupils knew that those two people were up to something, and he also expected that Yi Guqing would eventually die in their hands. Thinking of this, a biting chill crept up their backs, making them shudder. From now on, no matter what, you must never provoke someone with double pupils. Everyone thought about it and made up their minds secretly. So it seems that the strength of the person with double pupils who can kill 10,000 heavenly saints is far more terrifying than we imagined. Li Qixin murmured, his face showing some regret. If that day he could forcibly protect the one with double pupils, then if they joined forces, the entire immortal treasure would be unstoppable. It's all Yi Guqing's fault. Li Qixin's eyes were somewhat cold. He had never had such murderous intent toward someone, even if the other person was already dead. He had also figured out these days, if he went with the one with double pupils, and people from other domains wanted to kill him, the worst that could happen was a fight to see who could kill whom. Then why hasn't the one with double pupils killed any other alien since the first day? At this moment, Lu Wuxin was a little puzzled. You know, with the opponent's strength, he shouldn't have been killed. Have you forgotten what the gods said when they were crossing the sea? They're going to hunt down those with double pupils. Someone responded as if thinking of something bad. After hearing this, everyone suddenly realized what was going on. The gods are crossing the sea and are saying they want the heads of those with double pupils. In this way, everything becomes clear. You have to know that the gods have been the leaders of the immortal treasures for several consecutive terms. Their strength is countless times stronger than those of the giants. Although the double-pupil people are powerful, they can deal with the entire giant clan. But if they were to face such terrifying creatures as the gods, they would have no chance of winning. Therefore, the one with double pupils simply hid himself and did not kill the alien because he was afraid that the gods would find him. And now, at the end of the first round, I dared to show off and show my skills. After everyone figured it out, their faces looked a little ugly, and even a hint of guilt surged in their hearts. If they had spoken up for the one with double pupils that day, and everyone in the Xintian realm had been united, the one with double pupils would not have been so timid, and would not have been fleeing from the gods' pursuit day and night. It's all their fault. They kept silent and believed what those two traitors said. For a moment, others hated Yi Guqing even more, and had no good feelings towards the Sun God Palace behind him. After all, what kind of force is good if it can cultivate treacherous people? It's all Yi Guqing's fault. That's right, it's all the fault of that Sun God Palace. They chose a traitor instead of anyone else. I wonder if the Sun God Palace has some kind of deal with the Blood God cult. Their core disciples are so trusting of the Blood God cult. Xiongda and others present cursed. In the outside world, in the void, the faces of those powerful people turned red, and they all tried to suppress their laughter. They didn't expect that in the end the blame would be placed on the palace of the Sun God. The most angry person was Fen Dao, who was hiding in the clouds. His face was frighteningly dark, and he was gritting his teeth. At this moment, he wanted to drag Yi Guqing out and whip his corpse. He didn't know what was wrong with Yi Guqing's brain. He was so stupid that he believed what others provoke him to do. Now, their Sun God Palace has become the target of inexplicable criticism. Damn it. Chapter 243, The Generous Reward. Inside the Immortal Treasure House. When, following the sound of a loud bell, in the great wilderness mountains, the remaining 100 or so geniuses all looked up into the void with shocked expressions on their faces. There was a tall and majestic figure. This person is none other than the Star Messenger. I saw Xingqian's mouth twitching, and a sound like thunder erupted in the plain. That power seemed to be announcing to the world, so majestic. There's only half a day left until the first round of assessments. The battlefield has already begun, so you can retreat early. After half a day, the rankings will be finalized, the dust will settle, and the immortal treasure will close. As soon as these words were spoken, the few remaining geniuses in the great wilderness mountains breathed a sigh of relief. I have finally waited for this day. Over the past month, I have experienced almost all the hardships I have never experienced in my life. It is really not easy to survive until now. At this moment, a formation was activated in the bracelets of the remaining people, as if they only needed a thought to leave here. Before they could react, the emotionless voice sounded again the next moment. As for this reward, after he finished speaking, everyone became more cautious and their breathing slowed down. Their bodies trembled and they stared at the Star Messenger intently. Why do they work so hard? It's for these rewards. The Star Envoy was very satisfied with their reaction and spoke slowly. The top 50 will be rewarded with a heavenly grade weapon and a heavenly grade elixir. The top 25 will be rewarded with a saint soldier and a saint herb. As for the top 10, as soon as the words fell, countless people were shocked. They had never thought that just by entering the top 50, they could be rewarded with a heavenly weapon and even a heavenly elixir. It's a huge profit. They're just here to run as a runner-up, and their purpose is to allow the monsters in their domain to enter the second round. Unexpectedly, even in this situation, they can still get some soup. What's more, the weapons in their hands are at most Xian level at best, so Tian level is a huge surprise for them. However, they had never eaten that heavenly grade elixir before. If they could take it, their cultivation would definitely increase a lot. At this moment, those geniuses who made into the top 50 were extremely excited, as if they were hit by a huge pie. The pupils of those evildoers who entered the first 25 also shrank. They had never expected to obtain the saints' weapons here. Sage weapons, as the name suggests, are weapons used only by saints. They are of extraordinary value and are in short supply even in the outside world. What's more, the difference between the saint's weapon and other weapons in terms of power increase is simply too huge. It can be said that after they have the saint soldiers, their strength can be raised to a higher level. Thinking of this, the geniuses in the middle of the rankings were all overjoyed and couldn't hide the smiles on their faces. As for those geniuses ranked after the 50th place, they were all overshadowed after seeing this. They did not expect that the reward this time would be so generous. If I had known it would be like this, I should have earned points properly. Some people had regret flashes on their faces, while others looked at the monsters who were almost stable with envy. There were also some people whose eyes flickered, as if they were planning to make a sprint in the last half day to see if they could squeeze into the top 50. For them, as long as they can enter the top 50, all their efforts will be worth it. Of course, even so, they still had no intention of leaving, because in the last half day, except for those geniuses at the forefront, no one dared to say that they were safe. Even in the last half day, they have to try their best to maintain their ranking and not let those water ghosts overtake them. Soon, everyone focused their attention on the last words of the Star Envoy. Will the rewards for the top 10 be announced next? The rewards for the top 50 and top 25 are so generous that it's hard to imagine what the rewards for the top 10 will be like. Everyone was silent, holding their breath, staring blankly, not daring to miss a moment. The big one is coming soon. The Star Envoy glanced down below, a hint of horror flashing across his eyes, but he still read out the reward given by the person. The first place winner will be rewarded with a World Tree Seed, an Imperial Weapon, an Immortal Medicine, and an Imperial Sword Technique. Ranked second, the reward is 3 drops of true Phoenix Blood, an Imperial Weapon, an Immortal Medicine, and an Immortal Level Martial Arts. The third place winner will be rewarded with an Immortal Weapon, 3 Pillars of Holy Medicine, and a Holy Level Technique. As soon as the words fell, the entire mountain range fell silent. Everyone's pupils shrank slightly, and some could not believe what they heard. Did they hear correctly? World Tree Seeds, Imperial Weapons, Immortal Medicine. These random prizes are refreshing their worldview. Although they didn't know what level of magical weapon this World Tree Seed was, they knew it was a true phoenix. In their domain, a ferocious beast with just a trace of phoenix blood could already dominate the Saint realm. Not to mention those beasts with pure phoenix blood, they simply couldn't imagine how powerful they would be. And this true phoenix essence and blood is even more beyond the mundane world. It is the essence and blood of a true phoenix above the 9 heavens. Compared with the two mentioned above, it is like a mayfly seeing the blue sky. That world tree seed is even more amazing than this true phoenix blood, not to mention those imperial weapons and elixirs. This has completely surpassed the rewards of others. It can almost be said that the rewards for the top two are completely different. At this moment, countless people were crazy, their eyes were extremely fiery, and they wished they could transform into those monsters in the top 10. Those who made it into the top 50 and top 25 were all silent at this moment, as if they had suffered a huge blow after hearing about these rewards. Their heavenly soldiers and holy soldiers are so pale and powerless in front of the top 10 rewards and don't seem to be very attractive anymore. At this time, in the cave, Wang Tung and others were already excited. They didn't expect that the reward this time would be so generous, so incredible that it was unimaginable. The rewards for first and second place are totally on a different level than others. They even get imperial weapons. So, wouldn't that mean those two quasi-saints of the Blood God cult are getting a bargain? Yes, this is too much. If they get it, it will not be a good thing for our Xiantian territory in the future. Originally, Lu Dezhu and the others were a little excited, but when they thought about the wedding dresses they were making for Wenshun and Wenze, they became very angry. Wenshun and Wenze were not geniuses to begin with. They were old monsters who had lived for 1,000 years, but now they came here with the cultivation level of quasi-saints. If this wasn't blatant cheating, what was it? Chapter 244 Dead? Alive again? For a moment, everyone's faces were very gloomy. Doesn't the Star Envoy care about them? Shiming's eyebrows were slightly wrinkled, and her purple hair was very beautiful. When these words were spoken, everyone looked stunned. Yes, why didn't the Star Envoy take care of these two? With his strength, he would definitely be able to see their true identities. Li Muxiu shook his head. Even Nangong Chen could see through the disguises of those two people. So how could the Star Envoy not see through it? However, what puzzled him was that the other party allowed these two people to score at will and at the same time offered such an incredible reward. What was the intention behind this? We don't know what such a powerful figure is thinking. Let's not speculate. Li Qixin, their leader, came out and spoke, dispelling their unnecessary worries. The most urgent matter is those people with double pupils. Li Qixin looked towards the door with worry in his eyes. After hearing this, Jiang Che and others also looked over. Just now, they also learned that Nangong Chen and the other two had entered the ancient immortal ruin some time ago. They had been inside for about 6 or 7 days, and until today, when the immortal hiding was about to end, there is still no news. No one knows whether they're dead or alive in there. If they don't come out within half a day, they will be trapped in this immortal treasure for the rest of their lives. Everyone had complicated expressions. They still hoped that Nangong Chen and the others could get out safely. The ones who were most worried were Wang Tung and his companions. They were rescued by Nangong Chen, so they naturally hoped that nothing unexpected would happen to Nangong Chen and his companions. Wait a little longer, maybe they will come out. At this time, Li Qixin's face was complicated and he spoke. After hearing this, everyone nodded. There was only half a day left, and they couldn't do anything. It would be better for them to stay here and wait. If it was really too late, they could use the bracelet to get out directly. At this moment, there was an uproar in the outside world. Look, who is that? Someone pointed at the Star Messenger in the projection and said in a lost voice. In the picture, the figure of the Star Messenger is magnificent and mysterious, and his huge body covers the entire sky, like a real god. At this moment, even some strong men felt an inexplicable tremor in their hearts after seeing it. They seemed to be able to feel that as long as the other party wanted to, they could use this time and space to wipe them out. Soon, they guessed that this mysterious and powerful existence should be the person who had previously made the projection ineffective. Only such a powerful existence can separate time and space and rewrite the rules. And now, for some unknown reason, he actually appeared in the projection himself and did not take any action to isolate the projection, just as some people were thinking that majestic existence spoke. As soon as the words fell, the whole audience was in an uproar. Although they didn't know what immortal weapons and imperial artifacts were, they all had an idea in their minds. They were at least weapons used by immortals. Now, they were being included as rewards for the top 10. Immortals are even more powerful than saints. At least there are no such people in their domain. Even the heavenly grade weapons and saintly weapons that they had never seen in their entire lives were like free in this person's hands. Anyone ranked in the top 50 could take them away. Everyone was stunned, as if a torrent of energy rushed into their brains, and it took them a moment to react. No wonder the immortal treasure is so dangerous, yet so many geniuses still flock to it. If it were me, I would go too. After a long while, someone murmured. Even the powerful ones in the void were jealous after hearing this. They wanted to participate in person and lose face to compete with these juniors. Others don't know the value of those things, but they do. Above the Huangxian earth and sky, there are holy artifacts, immortal artifacts, imperial artifacts, legendary divine artifacts, and even Taoist artifacts. These are all circulated in ancient books. But unfortunately, in their Xiantian domain, the heavenly level has already reached its ceiling. Apart from some families that are dependent on the upper realm, forces like theirs dare not even think about owning a holy weapon. And those families that depend on the upper realm, with the help of this sacred weapon, can dominate the Xiantian territory and no one can provoke them. It is conceivable how extraordinary the rewards in the immortal treasure are. If just a handful of them flow out of the Xiantian realm, it can already change the situation a lot. At this moment, many families have already set out, preparing to see if they can get a good impression after these geniuses come out. Although they could not see the rankings in the immortal treasure, they all knew that the geniuses who entered the immortal treasure this time were destined to be extraordinary in the future. But soon, some people began to worry. Luanxin and Liang Gui were so powerful. What would happen if they got the legendary immortal weapon or imperial weapon? And this is something that is very likely to happen. After all, they're the 4 leaders of the blood god cult. No matter where they are terrifying. Soon, Li Qixin and others in the projection turned the topic to the person with double pupils. When everyone saw this, they were also stunned. Yes, half a day has passed. Why haven't those people with double pupils come out yet? For a moment, the atmosphere that was a little excited just now suddenly became dead silent. They had just heard from that terrifying being that there was only half a day left until the end of the immortal hidden zone. If they didn't come out, they would be trapped there forever. It seems like something unexpected really happened to those people with double pupils. At this moment, everyone's heart seemed to be covered by a layer of dark fog, and they felt extremely depressed. Especially the supporters of those with double pupils. Their faces were pale at this moment, and some women even had tears in their eyes and burst into tears. The scene of the man with double pupils fighting alone in the wild territory seemed to still appear in their minds and could not be shaken off. Those with double pupils were buried there, which meant that their Xiantian realm had lost the most terrifying monster in the history of the human race. You know, he's only 18 years old, but he's already achieved this. In the crowd, Qingyu's beautiful eyes were a little red and swollen, and there was an inexplicable haggardness on her face. It was hard to believe that such a talented person would die there. Qingfan also looked very bad, with a sour nose. The scenes that had happened in the yard before seemed to be replaying in his mind. Even Chu Xing, who was wearing a pig-head mask beside him, was silent at this moment. The 2 pairs of eyes under the mask seemed dead and lifeless. And Mo Han, who was not far away, looked at this scene coldly, with a hint of satisfaction on the corner of his mouth, and whispered, "Sure enough, these ruins aren't so easy to get to. These idiots were so greedy, and now they're buried there. They deserve it. But it's a pity that those 2 beauties died together with that arrogant guy." In the void, those powerful ones also showed regret on their faces. The man with double pupils did not die at the hands of the venerable one in the end, but died in the ruins instead. It's really sad. They have lived for so many years and have never seen such an enchanting genius. The person with double pupils appeared like a meteor from the ancient Eastern Divine Land, stunning countless people. Just as everyone was wailing, a cry of surprise suddenly rang out. "Fuck, it's out." Everyone looked at the young man, wearing a pig-head mask in the crowd with some confusion. The next moment, as the young man looked over, they looked at the projection and their pupils suddenly shrank.